1061. The opportunity in the netherworld. In preaching Joe's private small world, almost all were individuals whose clans had been slaughtered. People like Yukai Song, whose family was still intact, were rare. Although they understood Yukai Song's background, saying he wished he could drag his entire family to be buried with him. However, since it concerned everyone's life and safety, Joe the preacher's followers were still somewhat wary of Yukai Song. Including but not limited to, someone watching Yukai Song at all times and never letting him be alone. Yukai Song was unaware of the secret method to open the passage to the private small world. Each time he entered or exited, he was accompanied by someone else. He was not allowed to participate in critical tasks, but was only assigned the most insignificant tasks to start with. Even when subjected to such discriminatory treatment, Yukai Song still had no complaints. Diligent and hardworking, bearing hardships without complaint. His performance was seen by everyone, and gradually, their attitude towards him improved. One day, he finally had the opportunity to participate in the organization's real mission. The target of this mission is to infiltrate the Myriad Immortals Alliance's open black lens bracket nether prison close black lens bracket and rescue a senior imprisoned at the bottom. This senior was also a member of the preachers back then. However, because of his upright and unyielding nature, he offended many other preachers. 500 years ago, when Senior Joe left the preachers' council, he was seized upon and thrown into the nether prison. The Immortal Alliance's nether prison is located in the rift space of the central 4 provinces. It suppresses the most heinous criminals of the Myriad Immortals Alliance throughout history. They are often of use to the Myriad Immortals Alliance for some special reason, so they have not been executed but only suppressed and guarded. Open black lens bracket nether prison close black lens bracket is heavily guarded, but Senior Joe has already arranged an inside contact. We only need to impersonate the Myriad Immortals Alliance headquarters cultivators and present a transfer order to take the target out. Many functions of the Celestial Mystery Mirror are damaged, and the connection between open black lens bracket nether prison close black lens bracket and the Immortal Alliance headquarters has also been affected. We must seize this rare opportunity before the new contact verification method is established. The Myriad Immortals Alliance always uses 3 10-man teams to escort prisoners from open black lens bracket nether prison close black lens bracket, forming an array together. Yukai Song was selected as a member of the mission this time, and was taught the key points to pay attention to when acting, as well as the real escort formation. After half a day, they were acting very convincingly. The situation in nether prison is special. Senior Joe is not convenient to go, so this time we can only rely on ourselves. The mission is difficult, and there is a possibility of failure. Everyone must be prepared to sacrifice at any time. If things are exposed, in order to prevent soul searching, everyone must release the restrictions in their souls as soon as possible. Rather be destroyed in body and soul than let the Myriad Immortals Alliance get any information. If anyone wavers or is unwilling, they can withdraw now. After a while, no one spoke. So the initial plan was drafted. After the mission begins, they will leave the small world. They will not carry any items with personal identification, and Li Fan will lose his connection to this group of people. However, at the beginning of the monitoring, Li Fan sneaked into the Yu family and stole a drop of Yukai Song's natal blood essence. With bloodline induction, Li Fan still faintly locked onto Yukai Song's location. Quietly followed behind him, the 30-person cultivator team were all dressed in black, which Li Fan was extremely familiar with. Even the aura emanating from them was as cold and stern as that of orthodox black-clothed cultivators of the Myriad Immortals Alliance. Joe the preacher really has some tricks. Following all the way, they arrived above a deep valley at the junction of the central 4 provinces of the Immortal Alliance. White clouds swirled, making it impossible to see the bottom of the valley. The leading black-clothed cultivator took out a jade seal, projecting white light and shining it into the deep valley. The sea of clouds immediately separated from it, and the cultivator team entered one after another without hesitation. Li Fan did not follow in, but just watched from a distance. From below the deep valley, from the so-called nether prison, Li Fan faintly felt a dangerous aura. His goal is not to rob the prison. Just wait outside for them to complete the mission. The mission seems to be proceeding exceptionally smoothly. After half a day, the closed sea of clouds opened again. The 30-person team locked an old man with white hair in the center and flew out of the sea of clouds. At first, it seemed relatively normal. Later, the speed of escape became faster and faster. Open the small world channel as soon as you leave the influence range of the rift. The leading black-clothed cultivator suppressed the excitement in his heart and transmitted his voice. The white-haired preacher who was rescued did not seem to have any emotional fluctuations about his escape. He just closed his eyes and ignored everything outside. The situation was urgent, and the group had no time to explain. They just took the white-haired old man and fled frantically. When they finally retreated to a safe area, they were about to cast a spell to open the small world channel. Who is it? At this moment, the leading cultivator's eyes swept towards Li Fan's location and shouted violently. At the same time, a white sword light burst out, instantly slashing towards Li Fan. His companions also reacted, and in an instant, they spared no effort, with light and energy overflowing, and all kinds of spells and moves slammed towards Li Fan. However, what frightened them was that all the attacks were like clay oxen entering the sea, absorbed and disappeared the moment they approached the enemy. Unable to stir up even the slightest ripple. Who exactly are you? The leading black-clothed cultivator said with a solemn expression. Li Fan slowly appeared, ignoring him. Instead, he looked directly at the white-haired old man and said loudly, "Senior, don't be deceived by these people. They are pretending to be people of Preaching Joe, staging this play to rescue you from the nether prison. It is to deceive your trust. The real Preaching Joe is already dead." The dozens of people escorting the white-haired old man were all shocked when they heard Li Fan's words. The disguised stern aura was gone, and instead, they became somewhat flustered and chaotic. You, the leading cultivator, also couldn't hide the shock in his heart. However, he quickly reacted and hurriedly tried to explain to the white-haired old man. "Senior, don't be bewitched by this person. I have Senior Joe's token here." Saying that, he took out a red knot to show his identity. Facing the confrontation between the two groups of people, the white-haired old man, who had been watching the show, finally opened his eyes at this moment. He first glanced at the red knot and snorted coldly, "What token? You are not the first to use such clumsy tricks. Did you think I would fall for it? If Joe really instructed you, why didn't she come here in person?" The leading black-clothed cultivator was speechless when he didn't expect the white-haired old man to think that way. The white-haired old man then looked at Li Fan and then shook his head slightly. "You kid, you don't look like a good person. Joe would never accept someone like you as a subordinate." The white-haired old man pondered. "Both sides are fake." 1062. The Dharma spreaders meet. "Not bad, you've finally made some progress. Not only is your acting becoming more realistic, but your schemes finally have a bit of substance," the white-haired old man commented. The leading black-clothed cultivator grew anxious. "Senior, you've really misunderstood." He hastily ordered his companions to release the formation binding the white-haired old man. "Senior, you've regained your freedom now, surely this can't still be acting, right?" The white-haired old man narrowed his eyes. "I personally built the prison of gloom back in the day. If I truly wanted to leave, how could it actually trap me?" Not even understanding this, the white-haired old man's gaze grew increasingly disbelieving. "I told you they were all liars. Senior, you should just come with me. I'm all alone, even if I wanted to plot something, I wouldn't be a match for you," Li Fan said with a smile, observing the situation. However, despite what he said, he made no move to approach and welcome the white-haired old man. This kid, the white-haired old man was somewhat unable to understand this young man before him. The mission, which had been proceeding exceptionally smoothly, had stalled here in a way no one had anticipated. Every second that passed increased the possibility of being discovered by the 10,000 Immortals Alliance. The leading cultivator, left with no choice, grew increasingly anxious. Gritting his teeth, he began to contemplate taking action, first controlling the white-haired old man and forcibly taking him back. Just then, a crisp sigh suddenly echoed above everyone's heads. "Old Wei, you're still so self-righteous." The moment the voice appeared, the black-clothed cultivators all revealed expressions of joy. "Senior Joe." The white-haired old man, also known as the Transmitter Wei, suddenly underwent a change in aura. His originally cloudy eyes instantly erupted with a burst of light, looking directly upwards. A woman dressed in plain white clothing, with a delicate and pretty face, had quietly appeared unnoticed. Transmitter Wei carefully examined her, slightly stunned. "It really is you." He looked at the group of black-clothed cultivators before him, his expression becoming somewhat strange. So, these little fellows were telling the truth. Transmitter Joe sighed again. "You think too much about conspiracies and tricks, everything looks fake to you. The 10,000 Immortals Alliance has had many things happen recently. I suspect the Transmitter Council has deteriorated, so I thought about inviting you out. But if I personally showed up, I would definitely see your smug, stinky face. So I sent these little fellows out. Unexpectedly, Transmitter Joe's tone was somewhat strange, weak, and listless. The white-haired old man's expression froze for a moment upon hearing this. However, he quickly burst into laughter to diffuse the awkwardness. To divert attention, he immediately locked his gaze onto Li Fan. Since you're real, then what's the deal with this kid? Li Fan remained unafraid, cupping his hands in greetings, seniors. This farce was just to meet you both. Wei and Zhou exchanged glances, both revealing playful expressions on their faces. The 10,000 Immortals Alliance will be here soon. Let's change locations. Transmitter Zhou waved her slender hand in the air, opening a spatial passage, leading the group of black-clothed cultivators to fly into it. The white-haired old man turned back to look at Li Fan. Kid, do you have the guts to follow me in? Li Fan pondered for a moment and followed them into the small world. This is. After clearly seeing the surrounding scenery, Li Fan almost thought he had fallen into some kind of illusion again. Because the architectural style in this small world was extremely similar to the world Li Fan lived in before he transmigrated. Skyscrapers stood tall and dense. In the dark night, a drizzle fell from the sky. Numerous neon lights on the outer walls of the buildings adorned the city under the night with bizarre colors. This somewhat distant, yet very familiar scene, made Li Fan momentarily stunned. It wasn't just him. Transmitter Wei was also somewhat unaccustomed to it. How is it? Pretty good looking, right? I went to Paradise of Carefree Bliss for vacation before and thought this kind of scenery was pretty good. So I just copied it over. Transmitter Zhou's voice slowly came. Li Fan followed the voice and saw that she had already changed her clothes. A crisp white shirt and tight-fitting trousers. She even wore a pair of black-rimmed glasses on her face. She didn't look like a transmitter at all, but rather like a metropolitan beauty. Your taste is still so incomprehensible. Transmitter Wei shook his head slightly, disagreeing. You're still so inflexible and annoying, Transmitter Zhou also mocked. I think it's pretty good. Especially this outfit, it suits you very well, senior, Li Fan interjected at this moment. The gazes of the two transmitters simultaneously landed on Li Fan. Hee, young people's taste is much better than some old fogies. That's why I like collecting young people, Transmitter Zhou said with a smile, sizing up Li Fan. Kid, if you have any purpose, you better speak frankly. This old man's patience is very limited. Transmitter Wei's expression wasn't so good. However, Li Fan could see that Wei's anger was just a pretense. At this time, the three of them were already on the top floor of the tallest building in the city. Through the huge glass curtain wall, the prosperous city under the night could be seen in its entirety. The entire floor, except for the central desk and sofa, and the red carpet that covered the entire floor, had no other decorations. Li Fan sat down on the sofa casually, as if he were in his own home. Then, he began to explain the reason for seeking out Transmitter Zhou. I want to know what exactly happened at the 10,000 Immortals Alliance headquarters 5 years ago. And where the real Heavenly Mystery Mirror is now. Transmitter Wei had been imprisoned for many years and hadn't figured out the situation for a while. Transmitter Zhou's calm expression slowly disappeared. She carefully sized up Li Fan, seemingly trying to guess his origin. You appeared in front of me out of nowhere and immediately demanded such confidential matters. Little fellow, where does your confidence come from? Zhou's tone gradually changed from lazy to icy, just a core formation cultivation. Even if the devoured grotto heavens are a bit vast, it's still just the core formation realm. You dare to talk to me like that? Li Fan's expression didn't change. I've always spoken to you transmitters in this tone. You haven't directly attacked, but instead are testing me with words. Doesn't that explain where my confidence lies? The atmosphere instantly became tense again. But it broke in an instant with Transmitter Zhou's charming smile. You're right, I haven't seen such an outstanding young person like you in a long time. How about becoming my collectible? If you're willing, I can tell you any secrets you want to know. Transmitter Zhou's tone became as lazy as before. 1063, The Shocking Truth. A collection, Li Fan thought of those cultivators who had been saved by the law transmitters. In their eyes, Law Transmitter Zhou was a true savior. The higher-ups of the Immortal Alliance had problems and needed to be set right to rebuild everything. The Law Transmitter was undoubtedly the leader. However, this group of passionate cultivators probably never imagined. In Law Transmitter Joe's eyes, they were less like companions to work with and more like collectibles. But Li Fan wasn't too surprised. After learning about the various deeds of the Law Transmitters from Mo Rubin, Li Fan no longer held any hope for this group. Perhaps the deterioration of the Law Transmitter Council that Law Transmitter Joe spoke of was merely a disagreement in ideals. Li Fan gathered his thoughts and said proudly, "Want to take me as a collectible? Don't even mention you, even a Law Transmitter might not be qualified." As soon as he said this, Law Transmitter Joe and Wei's expressions changed instantly. Although they had now left the Law Transmitter Council, in their hearts, the status of Law Transmitting Celestial Venerable was always unshakable. A trace of killing intent instantly locked onto Li Fan. But soon, as a looming faceless stone statue phantom appeared above Li Fan's head, the killing intent in the eyes of the two Law Transmitters turned into shock. Mystic Heaven Sect. They naturally knew the origin of this statue. Law Transmitter Joe immediately looked at Li Fan and exclaimed. Although Law Transmitter Wei did not lose his composure, his expression was also serious. The aura on his body instantly became as deep as the sea, slightly revealing the true power belonging to a Law Transmitter. Nay. Seeing the other party as if facing a great enemy, Li Fan immediately shook his head to deny it. "I am not a demonic member of the Mystic Heaven Sect. It's just that we worship the same master," Li Fan said calmly. The two Law Transmitters were immediately somewhat stunned. Li Fan recounted the already fabricated story in detail. When the Immortal Path collapsed, thanks to the Master's rescue, the Mystic Heaven Sect had the opportunity to rise later. It's hateful that the demonic members of the Mystic Heaven Sect often went back on their word and dared to betray the Master. Without the Master's support, the Mystic Heaven Sect was indeed destroyed not long after. But there are still some remnants surviving. To deal with traitors, we must never stop until one side is dead. For 10,000 years, we have never given up chasing and killing the remnants of the Mystic Heaven Sect. Now, there are only a few remaining targets. A sense of vicissitudes appeared in Li Fan's eyes, and he sighed slightly. This statement directly made the two Law Transmitters somewhat uncertain. They could vaguely tell that the young man in front of them was at most 34 years old. But what he mentioned, the collapse of the Immortal Path and the Mystic Heaven Sect, was a past even longer than the era when the 10 immortal sects ruled. It was definitely not something that ordinary young cultivators could know. Even the significance of this made the two Law Transmitters not dare to neglect it. After secretly exchanging glances for a moment, Law Transmitter Joe finally opened his mouth to ask, "Since your mission is to hunt down the remnants of the Mystic Heaven Sect, why are you interested in what happened at our Myriad Immortal Alliance headquarters?" Could it be? Li Fan's heart moved, and he immediately pretended to be surprised. "What, you don't know yet?" The mastermind behind that anomaly was a surviving Dharma King of the Mystic Heaven Sect. "Oh, that's somewhat different from what I know." Law Transmitter Joe's face showed a slight surprise. "That's right. That Dharma King's ability is to completely occupy and transform into another person." Li Fan seemed to suddenly remember something and suddenly reminded. The expression on Law Transmitter Joe's face suddenly became a little wonderful. After a moment of silence, she muttered to herself, "If that's really the case, then it makes sense. There's no reason why a few of them would do this. Now it seems they must have been occupied and taken over. To be able to break through the protective measures left by Celestial Venerable. The demonic members of the Mystic Heaven Sect are really a bit unbelievable." Law Transmitter Wei's eyes were deep, and he continued, "Being occupied by the demonic members of the Mystic Heaven Sect. This may be an opportunity for us." "Alright, I've already been honest. Are you still trying to hide something? In terms of capturing the remnants of the Mystic Heaven Sect, I think our positions are the same. There should be room for mutual cooperation." Li Fan frowned slightly, his tone a little impatient. Being so impatient was very in line with his young appearance. Law Transmitter Joe didn't mind, and instead told Li Fan about what happened at the Myriad Immortal Alliance headquarters that day. At that time, it was the groundbreaking moment for the previously agreed upon Mystic Heaven Sealing Spirit formation. This formation can be used to completely control the Celestial Mystery Mirror, which is crucial for the Myriad Immortal Alliance. Therefore, more than half of the Law Transmitters attended that day. The Mirror Holder lineage also sent several representatives to participate. After briefly explaining the difference between the Law Transmitters and the Mirror Holders to Li Fan, Law Transmitter Joe continued, "The location of the formation groundbreaking ceremony was inside the Immortal Alliance headquarters. This matter was extremely confidential, so on that day, in addition to them, only the formation masters responsible for the operation of the formation were present. All the remaining guard forces were waiting outside the secret realm. All of them are the core of the Immortal Alliance, and originally there would be no changes at all. But, Law Transmitter Joe's face showed a dignified look. At the moment when the mystic heaven-sealing spirit formation was about to take shape, someone in the Law Transmitter Council suddenly violently attacked the other Law Transmitters. The mirror holders who attended also launched a sudden attack. You must know that among us Law Transmitters, except for Zhang, the other strengths are all on par. With a premeditated plan and caught off guard, several Law Transmitters were controlled. The chaos of the battle quickly alarmed the guard forces outside the secret realm, but they were also stunned by the infighting of the Law Transmitters for a while. They didn't know who to listen to. Helping anyone was not right, so most of them stayed where they were and watched the outcome of the struggle. The Law Transmitters fought with all their strength, and the battle became more and more dangerous. Even the Celestial Mystery Mirror's main body space where the Immortal Alliance headquarters was located was faintly unable to withstand that kind of power. The chaos lasted for a full half day. In the end, 5 people, led by Law Transmitter Chen, won. Law Transmitter Joe said the names of those 5 people one by one. What shocked Li Fan's mind was that Law Transmitter Feng was actually among these 5 people. What's going on? Law Transmitter Feng was the young Law Transmitter possessed by Mo Rubin. Could it be? Li Fan's thoughts turned sharply, and a terrible thought suddenly appeared in his mind. No wonder I searched almost the entire profound yellow realm and couldn't find Mo Rubin and the others. It turns out that he didn't escape in a hurry, but instead took over the Magpie's nest and directly gained control of the Myriad Immortal Alliance. 1064. Joined forces to kill the evil spirits. Even after being outmaneuvered by Mo Rubin before, and witnessing the extent of this Zantian sect Dharma King's power, Li Fan never imagined that he could achieve so much in just a few short years. If my guess is correct, then his cultivation technique must allow him to simultaneously occupy more than one cultivator's body. That Dharma Transmitter Chen might also be him. Li Fan was shaken. At the same time, doubts arose in his mind, since he is the victor. The overall disappearance of the Shuofeng and Zan Suchong families can be explained as an attempt to confuse and disrupt my judgment. But what about the Tianzan mirror? The direct shutdown of many functions suggests that the main body has already left, right? With these questions in mind, Li Fan quickly inquired with Dharma Transmitter Zhou about the anomalies of the Tianzan mirror. Her answer made Li Fan suddenly realize the truth. There's nothing wrong with the Tianzan mirror itself, it's just that they seem to be borrowing its power to secretly plot something. So they've diverted most of the Tianzan mirror's computing power. As a result, functions like real-time trading have been forced to stop. A hint of anger appeared on Dharma Transmitter Zhou's face. I was wondering what important matter could be worth them violating the Heavenly Lord's teachings to maintain stability. Now it seems that it's actually the Zantian sect demons causing trouble. The Zantian mirror was originally the treasure of the Zantian sect that suppressed the sect. Although our Myriad Immortals Alliance has controlled it for so many years, we have never been able to completely subdue it. If it falls back into the hands of the Zantian sect. Dharma Transmitter Zhou's expression grew increasingly grim. No, I have to go back immediately. Dharma Transmitter Zhou stood up abruptly, ready to leave. But Dharma Transmitter Wei stopped her with a cold voice. Zantian sect remnants? That's just hearsay. They are the ones in power now, with the 5 victors at the core, controlling the other Dharma transmitters. We are the rebels now. Where did so many cultivators in your world come from? Wasn't it after all opposing forces were purged from top to bottom? Their current level of control is probably even stronger than before, Dharma Transmitter Wei analyzed calmly. Upon hearing this, Dharma Transmitter Zhou slowly regained some composure. I was too hasty. I never thought that it wasn't the Dharma transmitters defecting, but that someone had taken advantage of a weakness. After a long while, Dharma Transmitter Zhou said resentfully, "What's wrong with Zhang? How could he sit idly by and let this happen? Seeing the situation getting out of control, he should have sent a message to the Heavenly Lord earlier." Dharma Transmitter Wei chuckled. Out of control. That's just how it looks to those of us who know the inside story. For the vast majority of people, the current state of the Myriad Immortals Alliance is still very good. Zhang is just a rigid person. As long as it's not an unsolvable crisis that threatens to overturn the Zanhuang world, he won't send a message to the Heavenly Lord. There was a lot of dissatisfaction in the white-haired Dharma transmitter's tone. Li Fan also had a serious expression and said, "The Zantian sect demon's methods are a bit beyond my expectations. I originally thought he was just taking advantage of the chaos to seize some benefits in the Immortal Alliance headquarters. Now it seems that this fiend seeks much more. To be able to evade our pursuit for 10,000 years, he must have some ability. Facing such a tricky enemy, I think we can cooperate." The two Dharma transmitters simultaneously turned their gazes towards Li Fan. "Our organization is called Myriad Worlds Union. It's a collection of surviving cultivators from various cultivation worlds in this dark star sea who all serve the Master. We actually have no objections to your Myriad Immortals Alliance and the Five Elders Society occupying the main world. The numerous populations in the many small worlds of the Zanhuang world are enough for us to report to the Master. But traitors must be eliminated," Li Fan said firmly. "You two wouldn't want to see the foundation of the Dharma transmitting Heavenly Lord fall into the hands of a demon, would you?" The two Dharma transmitters looked at each other, then nodded slightly. "To set things right, our current strength is indeed a bit weak. I just don't know how strong your Myriad Worlds Union is," Dharma transmitter Wei asked tentatively. Li Fan revealed a look of pride. "Our organization is full of elite cultivators who have survived from various cultivation worlds. There are 2 combatants at the Eternal Life realm, or close to it. There are even more at the Tao Harmonization realm. Someone like me is just an ordinary person in the organization." The two Dharma transmitters were shocked, but at the same time, a hint of disbelief flashed in their eyes. Of course, the organization cannot mobilize all its forces to punish traitors. It will only be handled by the department I'm in charge of. But rest assured, there will definitely be no problem in mobilizing at least one Eternal Life Realm cultivator, Li Fan said confidently. "How many Dharma transmitters can you contact on your side?" Without waiting for them to respond, Li Fan changed the subject and asked. After pondering for a moment, Dharma transmitter Zhou replied, "Over the years, a total of 4 Dharma transmitters have left the Dharma Transmitter Council for various reasons. Apart from the 2 of us, the whereabouts of the other 2 are unknown. It may take some effort to find them." Upon hearing this, Li Fan frowned. "And after several rounds of purges, our remaining strength in the Immortal Alliance has also been reduced to the extreme. We are now just lurking in the dark." Dharma transmitter Zhou said another bad news. "Our Dharma Transmitter Council has become like this, and the Mirror Holder lineage is even worse. Led by Mirror Holder Kang, almost all of them have sided with the Zantian sect remnants." After Dharma transmitter Zhou finished speaking, she fell into silence. The white-haired Wei gave his opinion, "But we are not completely without a chance of winning. Currently, there are 2 ways to reverse the situation. First, find a way to make contact with the illusionary Truth Sage faction. As one of the backhands left by the Heavenly Lord in the past, they may be able to achieve a decisive effect. However, the illusionary Truth Sages are all hidden in the Museum of Divine Treasures. Now the channels in and out of the Immortal Alliance headquarters must have been strictly sealed off. It may be difficult to find them." Dharma transmitter Zhou nodded. "Since 2 years ago, none of my people have been able to freely enter or leave the Immortal Alliance headquarters. They all have to go through strict scrutiny and be led by a dedicated person. Then there's the second method. Directly find Zhang," Dharma transmitter Wei said slowly. "Although Zhang stays in his own Guishu small world all year round and basically doesn't pay much attention to anything unless it concerns the safety of the Immortal Alliance, but..." A hint of a smile appeared in the eyes of the white-haired old man. "If there is a world-destroying crisis in the Zanhuang world, he will definitely take action to resolve it. Ensuring the safety and stability of the Zanhuang world is the mission that the Heavenly Lord gave him before he left." 1065. The Dharma Spreaders, Oath. Annihilation. Isn't that a bit too extreme? Li Fan's expression was somewhat astonished. Now, within the Dark Star Sea, only Zanhuang world remains as a relatively safe haven. Before he could finish speaking, the transmitter Wei waved his hand to interrupt. "Hee, little friend, you misunderstand. It's not really about destroying Zanhuang world, but rather fabricating a disaster that ordinary cultivators cannot handle and must be resolved by Zhang himself. As long as we attract Zhang over, then the 2 of us can step forward to persuade him. We should be able to convince him to investigate the current ruling group of 5. A hint of sinister intent flashed in transmitter Wei's eyes. "Even if the Zantian sect demons are skilled at disguise, they will never withstand the scrutiny of the open black lens bracket transmitter's oath close black lens bracket." Transmitter's oath. This was the first time Li Fan had heard this name, and he immediately asked curiously. This is a open black lens bracket great oath close black lens bracket that each of us had to make when we joined the transmitters. In the name of the transmitter Celestial Lord, facing countless comrades who have sacrificed or are about to sacrifice, we point directly at our hearts and confront our own souls. In that era, facing the fierce encirclement and suppression by the 10 immortal sects, not everyone could maintain their original intentions. Therefore, in order to identify the parasites within the transmitter ranks, the scrutiny of the open black lens bracket transmitter's oath close black lens bracket is essential. If a transmitter betrays the original oath, 10 other transmitters can gather and forcibly initiate the oath scrutiny. Whether there has been a defection or not, under the illumination and questioning of the light of the heart, everything will be revealed. Transmitter Wei said proudly. It's just a pity that since the establishment of the Immortal Alliance and the stability of everything, the scrutiny of the transmitter's oath has not been truly implemented for many years. Everyone has tacitly agreed to avoid talking about it, as if it never happened. At this moment, Transmitter Joe coldly interrupted Wei's speech. For a moment, the expression on Wei's face was somewhat awkward. However, as long as we can gather 10 transmitters, we will surely be able to expose the Zhantian sect's conspiracy. Yang's identity is special, one person is equivalent to 5 transmitters. Adding the 2 of us, that means we only need to find 3 more supporters. Bai Fa Wei quickly changed the subject. With Yang's prestige, if he steps forward, this shouldn't be difficult. Li Fan nodded and said, our Myriad Realms Association has many surviving cultivators from other cultivation worlds. The calamities that befell their worlds were all different. To create a disaster that can alarm Zhang, it's not a big problem, Li Fan said with certainty. Then the only thing that is still uncertain, is what you said about Chen and the others being possessed by Zhantian sect demons. Li Fan originally thought that the negotiation was about to be completed, but who would have thought that the 2 transmitters in front of him would suddenly revert the topic back to the beginning. Transmitter Joe's tone became lazy again, and the urgency to save the Immortal Alliance disappeared in an instant. Guesses are just guesses. If there is no substantial evidence, and we start scrutinizing the Immortal Alliance's highest authority, what kind of chaos will the Immortal Alliance descend into? Your Myriad Realms Association has been chasing down the remnants of the Zhantian sect for so long, you must know them very well. Can you find any crucial evidence? Transmitter Joe asked. Li Fan was silent for a moment, and then slowly said, Mo Ruben is insidious and cunning. In the past, many secret methods that could identify Zhantian sect members have lost their effectiveness on him. However, he paused and said confidently, the Zhantian sect Dharma kings all cultivate the immortal realm techniques passed down by Zhantian Wang in the past. They form their own lineage and share a common origin. After cultivation, they can sense each other. According to this principle, we can create a miniature puppet that automatically runs the Zhantian sect Dharma king's techniques. When holding this item, if there are Zhantian sect members nearby, it will naturally produce a reaction. As he spoke, Li Fan smiled and took out a palm-sized, white jade-like, crystal-clear figurine and showed it to the 2 transmitters. Zhou and Wei took the miniature puppet and, after examining it, both revealed surprised expressions. Because this white jade figurine was like a living thing, with the techniques flowing within its body on their own. They could even feel its constantly fluctuating life force. Such a level of artifact refinement. The Immortal Alliance is inferior. So, they had a bit more trust in Li Fan's words. This puppet is a gift to you. I believe that with your methods, you should be able to conduct the final verification. I hope it's as soon as possible. The Zhantian sect demons have been secretly holding the Immortal Alliance for 5 years. Controlling such vast resources, no matter what they are secretly planning, it is very dangerous. Li Fan said solemnly. I also need to go back and report this discovery. I hope it can attract more attention from the organization. With that, Li Fan cupped his hands and was about to say goodbye and leave. The 2 transmitters did not try to keep him. Li Fan only left behind a disc engraved with open black lens bracket Myriad Realms close black lens bracket, as a means of contact in the future. Then, he hurriedly left Transmitter Joe's private small world. Joe played with the Myriad Realms disc, his eyes revealing a strange color. His divine sense delved into the disc, as if he had come to a starry sky. However, most of it was shrouded in yellow mist, and he could only vaguely see the distorted light being obscured. Only one of the light spots representing Li Fan was clearly shining and could be communicated with normally. Zhou was thoughtful. Each of those light spots in the starry sky represents a cultivator from the Myriad Realms Association. And they can all be contacted through this disc. However, only Li Fan's has been granted contact permission. The rest of the cultivators are obscured by some kind of power. The other party needs to agree before contact can be made. Zhou showed the Myriad Realms disc to transmitter Wei. After a moment, Bai Fa Wei sighed softly. The Myriad Realms Association, it seems that it really exists. This kind of technology is not something that any force can possess. And this puppet, Huang, that guy, is really derelict in his duty. Zan Huang World actually produced such an organization at some point, and we didn't have any information at all. Wei's face was a bit unsightly. Zhou remained non-committal. We'll talk about it after we see their so-called Eternal Realm expert. All these others are minor details. Only the Eternal Realm cannot be faked and is the best indication of an organization's foundation. A trace of longing appeared in Wei's eyes. The Eternal Realm awe. If it weren't for the restrictions of the transmitter identity, I would have had a chance back then. It's a pity. Zhou rolled his eyes at him. You've even deceived me now. Wei only shook his head slightly, without arguing. After a while, he suddenly said, by the way, thoroughly investigate those little guys who carried out the mission this time. He is so clear about your actions, there must be an internal ghost. 1066. The Tianyang Immortal Battle Puppet. Do I need you to remind me? Those little fellows were locked up by me as soon as they came back. It's just that we haven't gotten any results out of the interrogation yet, Zhou Dan said calmly. ... Li Fan left the small world of the law transmitting Zhou and appeared at the border of Tianquan Prefecture. He glanced in the direction of Nether Yu not far away, but Li Fan finally slowly withdrew his gaze. There will always be a chance to go down and take a look. There's no rush now. Then he sped towards the Spirit Wood realm. Little junior brother, is anyone following us? After flying for a while, Li Fan suddenly asked in his heart. A layer of transparent armor instantly appeared on his body, with distinct edges and corners, completely enveloping Li Fan's body. Tianyang's voice came from the armor. Don't worry, senior brother, the 2 strands of tracking divine sense have already been severed by me. And I also gave them a small warning. Compared to 5 years ago, Tianyang's voice is much more lively now. The sequelae of becoming a puppet have been completely eliminated, and he has become no different from a normal cultivator. And all of this is the change brought about by this immortal grade open black lens bracket war puppet close black lens bracket. This war puppet, or rather, battle armor, is precisely Li Fan's confidence this time in daring to attend the meeting alone and face the 2 law transmitters head-on. After being tricked by Mo Rubin, Li Fan was deeply stimulated. So he passed this pressure on to everyone in the Spirit Wood realm. Not only did craftsman Zhu Shi perform exceptionally well, completing the creation of the immortal grade puppet in just 5 years, but even the Medicine King sect produced frequent results, which made Li Fan very satisfied. But let's skip over this for now. After a complete transformation, Tianyang's strength has undergone earth-shaking changes. Even if Li Fan used all his strength, he couldn't even break through his defense. His divine abilities, such as thread extraction and life reduction, 5 elements nirvana sword, etc., could not shake Tianyang in the slightest. Even divine sense attacks were like a mud cow entering the sea, unable to stir up any waves. Only the imitation of the chaos word incantation could bring trouble to Tianyang. But that was all. With the power of origin essence, this transcendent force, as the core driver, Tianyang's current strength is definitely not weaker than the new longevity law of the Xuanwang realm. Perhaps there is a lack of attack methods, but his immortal grade puppet body is here. Even if he is not an opponent, he can only be suppressed and cannot be destroyed. And with Tianyang's puppet, comparable to immortality, transforming into armor to protect him, how could Li Fan take the mere 2 law transmitters seriously? If it weren't for the unexpected news that Mo Rubin was secretly in control of the entire Myriad Immortals alliance, Li Fan had even originally planned to directly capture and subdue these 2 law transmitters. The protection brought by Tianyang is all-encompassing. It's not just the physical body. Even divine soul attacks need to first disintegrate Tianyang's divine soul will before they can harm Li Fan. How powerful is Tianyang's will? During the Foundation establishment stage, he could maintain his crystallization for thousands of years without extinguishing, transforming into an eternal legacy. Now, after becoming an immortal puppet, he has been further sublimated, making Li Fan feel inferior. In short, under Tianyang's armor, Li Fan felt an unprecedented sense of security. Even if he faced Mo Rubin at this moment, he would be full of confidence and fearless. Tianyang brought Li Fan back to the Spirit Wood realm soon. 5 years have passed, and the Spirit Wood realm has undergone another great change. The Leaving Realm, the Empire, the Beast Seed Realm, and other small worlds that were originally connected to the Spirit Wood realm through space channels have slowly begun to merge with the Spirit Wood realm. Li Fan falsely claimed to be the Heavenly Tao and, inspired by the Xuanwang realm's fusion and splicing of other cultivation realms, comprehended the method of world devouring and fusion. However, with his current strength, it is still somewhat difficult to achieve the extent of the Xuanwang realm. He can only take a different approach through the method of array refinement. From a macro perspective, the current Spirit Wood realm is like a deformed monster with many small worlds grafted onto its body. However, aesthetics have never been what Li Fan focuses on. As long as it is practical, it is good. Moreover, this is Li Fan's first attempt. Practice makes perfect, and I believe that the technology of fabricating and merging worlds will get better and better in the future. In addition to the changes in the Spirit Wood realm itself, the Myriad Realms United Association has also been subdivided into several different departments according to different functions. It really has a semblance of order and is no longer just an empty shell. Open black lens bracket pill making close black lens bracket, based on the former Medicine King sect and others. Open black lens bracket weapon refining close black lens bracket, mainly composed of craftsman Zhu Shi, Fang Ziji, and many apprentices. Open black lens bracket secret exploration close black lens bracket, led by Li Fan's clone, Li Qing, with death warriors selected from various small worlds as the backbone. And open black lens bracket understanding the Tao close black lens bracket, mainly composed of young cultivators with outstanding talents such as Shan Hexuan and others. The scale has been formed, and the atmosphere is magnificent. Li Fan did not disturb them and went straight to the side of the underground secret room, a huge space that was later opened up. Currently, only he himself knows about this space, and the surrounding space is protected by 7-colored divine light. Li Fan named this not yet formed department open black lens bracket world destruction close black lens bracket. Just like its name, what the cultivators in the department will need to study in the future are various methods that can destroy the Xuanwang realm. It is really a bit shocking, so even though the cultivators in the United Association absolutely submit to Li Fan has not temporarily let them know the existence of this department. It seems that I can only find those equally extreme people. The Xuanwang realm is so big, if I really go looking for them, there will still be some. While thinking, Li Fan looked at the things wrapped in 7-colored light clusters in the open black lens bracket world destruction close black lens bracket space. Most of them are gray mold cultivated in the past 5 years, in case of emergency. But there are also some new things. Li Fan stretched out his hand, and a group of seemingly faded 7-colored light flew weakly into Li Fan's hand. Fentian arrow, falsely claiming to be the Heavenly Tao, after being able to see the power of the strange clearly, I can finally copy it. The Fentian arrow was the ultimate tool used by the Heavenly Alliance cultivators in the previous reincarnation to resist the Zon net. Using the power of the strange destruction, it caused regional destruction to the Zon net. And now that the Tianshuan mirror has not replaced the heavens, the performance of the Fentian arrow is to cause a large-scale outbreak of strangeness in the area, and the Xuanwang Heavenly Tao loses control. The strange power of the Fentian arrow was not generated by Li Fan himself. But he personally went to those areas where the strange broke out and collected it bit by bit himself. Then, he wrapped it in 7-colored divine light and sealed it up. Each arrow used is one less. However, judging from the current density of strange outbreaks in the Xuanwang realm, there is no need to worry about not having enough for the time being. In addition to the Fentian arrow, another major weapon in the open black lens bracket world destruction close black lens bracket space is the open black lens bracket chaos close black lens bracket word incantation. Borrowing the experience of the 115th world's automatic detonation, and also obtaining improved ideas from craftsman Zhu Shi. The chaos word incantation is engraved inside the puppet's body and has a certain degree of intelligence. It can go to the designated location and detonate the chaos word incantation at the designated time according to Li Fan's requirements. And what's even more wonderful is that this puppet has its own function of interfering with cause and effect, making it extremely difficult to lock down the mastermind behind the scenes through deduction. 1067. The mutated spiritual energy. However, based on past experience, using the chaos incantation in the Xuanwang world would inevitably attract the attention of the law transmitter and recall him from the void. With the law transmitter Heavenly Lord personally suppressing the Xuanwang world, almost no chaos can occur. All demons and monsters must temporarily avoid his sharp edge, so Li Fan generally would not consider such methods. Here in this 7-colored space, besides the above two creations, there is a third, relatively mature, world-destroying plan. That is to launch a reinforced small flying object towards the immortal ruins. This flying object is based on the principle of Tianyang transforming into a puppet, resembling a living creature. Besides the part that flies to the immortal ruins and attracts the attention of the immortals within, there is another half of the individual existing in the Xuanwang world. When it enters the immortal ruins, like the gaze of humans peering in, it will arouse the vigilance of the immortals in the immortal ruins. Then, following the connection between the flying objects, it will cross the void and lock onto the Xuanwang world, thus achieving the effect of destroying the world with a single glance. Just as Li Fan had unintentionally done before. Beyond these three, all are still under research and development. They are only theoretically feasible and have not been truly tested. For example, in the root of heaven and earth space of Tianling continent, completely shatter all the crisscrossing lines representing the principles of the Xuanwang world. Destroy the foundation of the Xuanwang world, causing the world itself to naturally decay. Another example would be to mass-produce magical artifacts containing the false and erroneous heavenly Tao, divine power and spread them throughout the Xuanwang world. This would inevitably cause chaos in the operation of heaven and earth. Filled with erroneous heavenly Tao instructions, it might even cover up the original, truly necessary mechanisms for the operation of heaven and earth, thereby causing worldwide turmoil. Subsequently, the Xuanwang world should undergo a certain degree of self-adjustment. Perhaps it will once again trigger a drastic change like, laws cannot be practiced together. Li Fan now still holds the origin of the Tianshuan mirror. With the highest level of authority, he can eagerly browse the sealed archives of the Myriad Immortals Alliance. The various hardships and disasters that have occurred on the Xuanwang land in the past have long been forgotten by people due to the divine power of the worry-free Heavenly Lord. Only Li Fan has picked them up again and regards them as treasures. The various world-destroying measures in the world destruction space are now Li Fan's only key to gambling with the power of the eternal life realm or even above. As the only pure land in the dark star sea that has survived to this day, the existence of the Xuanwang world is the prerequisite for cultivators to survive. And mastering the method of destroying the world is mastering the bargaining chip to negotiate with everyone in the Xuanwang world. It is not only useful in this life. As long as Li Fan does not leave the Xuanwang world for a day, this place is crucial to him. So Li Fan simply separated a saint embryo, and then used the faceless true immortal stone statue to bestow cultivation. Forcibly promoting the saint embryo to the golden core realm is enough to support its research work in the world destruction space. Carefully reinforcing the surrounding 7-colored divine light seal, Li Fan then quietly left this place. He came to the Empire Small World. Due to the fusion with the Spirit Wood world, the world itself has undergone some subtle changes. A large number of alien beasts in the Empire died because they could not adapt to this drastic change in the world. And the remaining ones were also listless, taking nearly 2 or 3 years to slowly recover their spirits. Now in the center of the Empire, where the royal castle used to be, there is an arched building. That is the experimental site established by the Myriad Worlds Association in the Empire. The Tao 1 insect, which can synthesize spiritual energy, has been improved for 3 consecutive generations. Now, the efficiency of generating spiritual energy has almost doubled. And the probability of occasional mutations that lead to the failure of the heaven and earth furnace has also been greatly reduced. Now, 1 heaven and earth furnace is enough to stably and continuously release spiritual energy for 100 years. It has basically met the needs of the Myriad Worlds Association. 5 years have passed, and the overall spiritual energy concentration of the fused Spirit Wood world is no weaker than that of the Xuanwang world. Of course, this is also because the Xuanwang world is too vast. The work focus of Little Green, Little Red, and others in the Empire has also shifted to coordinating the fusion of the Empire Small World and the Spirit Wood world. As for the Imperial Daughter, Li Fan gave her another task. Inside the dome laboratory, the Imperial Daughter is concentrating on staring at the countless Tao 1 insects, densely packed like black fog, in the space in front of her. She didn't even notice Li Fan's quiet arrival. Li Fan checked the experimental records. Ancestor Dao 1 Insect Mutant, 76th Test. After fusing with the splitting fungus, although the lifespan of this mutant is greatly shortened, the reproduction efficiency has increased by 100 times. According to calculations, under sufficient resources, a single Dao 1 insect can multiply its population to the billion level in just 7 days. Key record information. Although the spiritual energy produced by this Dao 1 insect can also be absorbed by cultivators, and initially they will not feel any abnormalities. However, if the amount absorbed is too much, exceeding half of the spiritual power stored in the body, it will have a subtle influence on the cultivator. Cultivators will become more irritable and more aggressive. More importantly, they will develop a certain dependence on the mutated spiritual energy. They will feel that normal spiritual energy is not refined enough. Li Fan nodded with great satisfaction as he looked at the detailed experimental information recorded by the Imperial daughter. The Imperial bloodline, as expected, is derived from the blood transformation of Shu Kei's saint embryo and inherited in the same line. The Imperial daughter has perfectly inherited Shu Kei's talent. Many experimental projects she has led in the past 5 years have made good breakthroughs. Especially the research on Dao 1 insect mutants. The spiritual energy produced by the Dao 1 insect undergoes many subtle changes in these mutants. This new appearance, which makes cultivators more irritable, is one of them. Previously, there were also those that could make cultivators lazy and lose their ambition. Or the spiritual energy concentration is too much, and after absorption, it will produce a drunken spirit effect. If it is still absorbed, it may even cause irreversible destructive effects on the cultivator's own sanity. All kinds of this are too numerous to mention. Although these mutated spiritual energies cannot destroy the Xuanwang world, they can, to some extent, modify cultivators, making the cultivators in a certain area uniformly become a certain fixed personality. Li Fan is really interested in this. After sealing and storing the information of this new variant and hundreds of sample insects into his own cave, Li Fan woke up the Imperial daughter who was still immersed in research. "Greetings, envoy." A trace of nervousness flashed in the Imperial daughter's eyes, and she quickly lowered her head and saluted. "How is the progress of searching for the Holy Emperor?" Li Fan asked. "Half of the small worlds have been eliminated. There is still no trace of the Holy Emperor. It is estimated that in at most 5 years, all the remaining worlds can be explored and the location where the Holy Emperor is hiding can be finally locked." The Imperial daughter truthfully replied. 1068. The Heavenly King is like a minion. If we're lucky, we might even find the Holy Emperor tomorrow. The Empress's tone was faintly excited. After finding the Holy Emperor, do not rashly make contact. There must be another reason why the Holy Emperor suddenly left back then. Report to the Union first, and then I will make the final decision, Li Fan said in a deep voice. The Empress nodded, indicating she understood. In these 5 years, Li Fan told the Empire all the information he had discovered about the heavens and minor worlds within the Xuanwang realm. Using a strange beast capable of freely traversing space, the Empire screened these minor worlds. The purpose was to find Shu Kei's hiding place. Back in the 115th life, before the Heavenly Daobai fought the law-transmitting Heavenly Lord. The figure that appeared next to Heavenly Daobai, carrying a coffin on his back, should have been Shu Kei. As for what exactly was in the coffin, and why he suddenly left the empire he had created with his own hands, he didn't even care about his beloved pets. Finding him would provide all the answers. However, Li Fan didn't really care about this. It was just a means to appease the people of the empire. After revealing the information about Shu Kei, the Empire was truly convinced, and their efficiency more than doubled. Li Fan didn't even have to supervise or urge them. After giving his instructions, Li Fan went to the deepest part of the vault laboratory. In the darkness, red threads fluttered like wandering snakes. This was the red rope that Mr. Bai had left with the Empire, for Shu Kei to use for self-defense. Just a strand of it could kill a top-tier demon powerhouse. It was almost as strong as a full-force strike from a new law eternal. Out of fear of Mr. Bai, Li Fan did not directly contact him in this life. Instead, he had the Empire and others conduct research directly. On the surface, the red rope was a manifestation of some kind of sword technique. But after several years of continuous experiments, the Empire found that this red rope was more like a living thing, possessing its own spirituality. To drive it, it didn't require spiritual energy. Instead, it needed the essence, energy, and spirit of living beings, this mysterious and profound thing. Or, simply put, the lifespan of living beings. Moreover, the red rope didn't care for ordinary living beings. Only those individuals within a race who were vigorous and upward striving would it be interested in devouring. After being cultivated with a large number of exotic beasts, the red rope, which was originally only a thin strand, had become like a thin snake in the vault laboratory. Even through layers of formation protection, it was still awe-inspiring. The clone used the black sword heavenly anomaly as its foundation, so Li Fan was relatively familiar with the sword techniques of the Xuanwang realm. After careful study, Li Fan discovered that the red rope contained more than just the Tao of the sword. It contained more of the Tao of balance. To hurt others, one must pay a price. So, one must first hurt oneself. In the eyes of heaven and earth, all beings are equal. There is no difference between a mortal and a Tao harmonization cultivator. Therefore, wielding this sharp sword, one can slay a Tao harmonization cultivator with a mortal body. A very classic ancient law theory, with similar records in many ancient books that Li Fan had read. Mr. Bai was the last ancient law eternal heavenly lord in the Xuanwang realm, so it was not surprising that the divine abilities he taught had such characteristics. However, with the passage of time, nowadays, even in the eyes of heaven and earth, beings are not the same. The higher a cultivator's cultivation, the more weight they occupy in heaven and earth, and the more they are hated by heaven and earth. It is no longer possible for ordinary people to trade one life for another. Therefore, the actual effect of this red rope has also been discounted. Li Fan calculated that the power of a strand of red rope was enough to destroy the body of a transformation god cultivator. However, a new law transformation god's body is entrusted to heaven and earth, so they would not die because of this. They would only be seriously injured. As for Tao harmonization, they could easily block the attack of the red rope. However, this was only the smallest unit of measurement for the red rope. If all the power of the bull-thick red rope in front of him were released, even Li Fan was not confident that he could protect his life in front of it. Not without the protection of the heavenly young immortal puppet. Now, the red rope seemed to have reached its limit and refused to eat anymore. Li Fan looked at the red rope moving in the darkness and fell into deep thought. The essence of the red rope is to use the power of the Xuanwang realm's heavenly Tao to fight the enemy. It is not abuse, but an exchange within the rules. Using the power of the red rope will still consume the cultivator's own lifespan. But only losing a little lifespan to defeat or even kill a transformation god cultivator. If it were spread out, people would definitely flock to it. Perhaps it can be used as a brand for the Myriad Worlds Union. What name? Sword holder. Li Fan's eyes flashed, and he ordered people to separate nearly 100 strands from the red rope, and then sealed them separately with 7-colored divine light. As long as you join the Myriad Worlds Union, you can hold this sword and kill transformation god cultivators. Who would dare to say that our union has no foundation? Moreover, killing new law cultivators is the will of heaven, so there is no need to worry about causing too much karma. Truly wonderful. Even after being drawn out, the wandering red rope still did not resume eating. It seems that the total amount of red rope in the Xuanwang realm is fixed. Some needs to be consumed before it can be regenerated. Although the red rope is mysterious, Li Fan would not use it. He would only give it to the members of the Myriad Worlds Union as a defensive magic weapon. It just so happens that some of the death warriors who previously explored the Blood River survived. I can bestow this magic weapon, and then formally teach the immortal law, to show encouragement, Li Fan thought, and left the Empire's minor world area. He came to the seeking seclusion area. On the countless empty bases, the first monument had quietly fallen. The stone tablet was engraved with the name and appearance of the cultivator who had retrieved the lost history from the Blood River. And the impact of that history can be viewed through this stone tablet. The first harvest was actually an insignificant scene. The time node was probably before the immortal path was severed. Visitors from other immortal cultivation worlds came in a mighty manner, riding on more than a dozen immortal ships. The various sects of the Xuanwang realm all sent teams to welcome them, holding a grand exchange meeting. It was so lively and full of vitality, completely different from the lifeless Xuanwang realm of today. After seeing this scene, every cultivator would inevitably feel a faint sense of loss and sadness in their hearts. There was actually a very interesting point in this picture. Li Fan actually saw the figure of Zhantian Wang Zhan Yuanong in this exchange activity. However, at that time, he was just one of the many cultivators responsible for the reception. Standing like a lackey, looking at those senior cultivators with a nervous and excited expression. Probably no one present could have imagined that this inconspicuous little cultivator would later become the last ascender of the Xuanwang realm and take on the responsibility of saving the world. Recommendation for a new book. The author of I Just Want to Quietly Be a Cautious Person has a new book. Interested friends can go and take a look. 1069. The counterattack begins and ends. Li Fan's gaze remained fixed on the phantom of the Zan Heavenly King. At this point in time, Zan Yuanong didn't appear significantly different from any other ordinary cultivator. If it weren't for the fragmented memories of Ji Yuzhen, which provided some understanding of the Zan Heavenly King, Li Fan wouldn't have believed that such a seemingly ordinary person would become the protagonist of a future era, and that their influence on the Xuanwang realm would persist even to this day. The scene recorded in the stone tablet didn't last long. Amidst the pleasantries and general rejoicing, it abruptly vanished. Although this first image obtained from the Crimson River of Blood was of little value, it undoubtedly marked a good start, enabling the Myriad Realms United Association's open black lens bracket seek the hidden close black lens bracket department to make breakthrough progress. As the saying goes, everything is hard at the beginning. With the first success, the second and third would surely follow soon. Li Fan, as the special envoy, didn't personally appear to reward him. Instead, he handed the red string to his clone, Li Qing, for him to present. In front of all the cultivators in the open black lens bracket seek the hidden close black lens bracket department, the man named Ji Ling received the red string reward, his face flushed red. Due to the consumption of a significant amount of lifespan in the Crimson River of Blood, Ji Ling, despite being only 23 years old, already looked like a middle-aged man in his 40s or 50s. However, after switching to the true transformation god cultivation method taught by Li Qing, he would have the opportunity to advance from the core formation realm, thereby gaining more lifespan. At this moment, the excited Ji Ling, in front of the stone tablet engraved with his name, shared his experience of exploring the Crimson River of Blood with the thousands of open black lens bracket seek the hidden close black lens bracket cultivators below. Seeing those who were originally of higher birth and deeper cultivation than him now listening attentively to his speech, the sense of accomplishment in Ji Ling's heart was beyond description. If it weren't for the grace of the compassionate true immortal of the mortal world, how could a small mortal like me have such good fortune? Infinite emotion surged in Ji Ling's heart, and his faith in the compassionate immortal was further sublimated. Li Fan, in the shadows, watched this scene completely and smiled slightly. After the Myriad Realms United Association got on the right track, it developed rapidly at an unimaginable speed. And the law transmitting ones Zhou also didn't make Li Fan wait long, and news soon came. It has been verified. Among the 5 law transmitting ones who currently hold the highest authority in the Immortal Alliance, 3 are actually fiends who have cultivated the Zan Heavenly Sect's techniques. Zhou said through gritted teeth. As for the remaining Chen and Shang, even if they haven't been possessed by the Zan Heavenly Sect's fiends, they must have been bewitched. They deserve to die. We can start taking action. Law Transmitting One Zhou then invited Li Fan to meet and discuss the details. Li Fan, who had been waiting for a long time, naturally agreed. With a thought, Tian Yang transformed from his armor form back into a cultivator's appearance. He remained in the appearance of a teenager of around 10 years old, as he was when he was alive, without changing his appearance. After the two of them came to the private small world of Law Transmitting One Zhou again, the eyes of the 2 Law Transmitting Ones fell on Tian Yang at the same time. This is. At Li Fan's suggestion, Tian Yang didn't restrain his aura, but deliberately exuded the power of a transcendent realm powerhouse. So obvious, the 2 Law Transmitting Ones naturally saw Tian Yang's extraordinariness at a glance. They didn't dare to be contemptuous because of his childish appearance. Not to mention transcendent realm experts, even among them, the law transmitting ones, there were many who had strange quirks. This is Elder Tian of our Myriad Realms United Association, responsible for assisting in handling matters related to the arrest of the Zan Heavenly Sect's remnant Mo Rubin and others, Li Fan introduced with a serious face. Tian Yang then put on the airs of a transcendent realm powerhouse, only snorting coldly as a response. He didn't even look directly at Law Transmitting One's Zhou and Wei. Although Tian Yang showed the strength of the transcendent realm, Zhou and Wei were, after all, once at the peak of power in the Immortal Alliance, or rather, the Xuanwang realm. Being so despised, they inevitably felt some discomfort in their hearts. They didn't dare to show it on the surface, but after a discussion, a plan came to mind. We can take this opportunity to test the other party's strength. That's right. Just with power alone, it's not enough to truly prove the identity of the transcendent realm. Zhou and Wei looked at each other, and then Zhou made a suggestion. During this time, we were very fortunate to find news of another companion who left the law-transmitting one's council. Perhaps we can persuade him to act with us. That's right. This person has a strange temperament and becomes irrational. Even when facing Zhang, he can't control himself from attacking. With just the two of us, we may not be able to persuade him. If Senior Tian could take action. Li Fan instantly understood the little thoughts of the two people in front of him. But he could also understand. The Xuanwang realm, which they claimed to know very well, suddenly produced a transcendent realm powerhouse that they had never heard of before. It was difficult for anyone to accept it for a while. Li Fan pretended to ask Tian Yang for instructions, and then nodded in agreement. Without delay, Zhou and Wei immediately led the way to find the third law-transmitting one. On the way, they introduced Li Fan in detail. This person's name is Open Black Lens Bracket Huang Close Black Lens Bracket. He was born deformed, with 2 heads and 4 arms. He was abandoned by his biological parents on the roadside, and was about to starve to death when he was fortunate enough to meet the law-transmitting Heavenly Venerate. Since then, he has become one of the most loyal law-transmitting ones. He cultivates the special technique taught by the Heavenly Venerate, and vaguely refines his body to the extreme. When he starts fighting, he can tear apart ordinary Tao integration with just his brute force. Moreover, this person's madness is actually just an appearance. No matter when, Huang is in a state of absolute rational calmness. The reason for such disguise is actually some kind of strategy to make people timid before the battle. However, facts have proved that this method is indeed effective. Over the years, the members of the Law-Transmitting One's Council basically don't take the initiative to provoke him. Even if they are found, most of them just pinch their noses and endure it. It seemed that Zhou and Wei were also somewhat afraid of Huang, and introduced him in great detail. Time passed by in small talk, and they were getting closer and closer to their destination. After arriving in Quyang Prefecture, the surrounding air also slowly became hot. The fire attribute energy wandering in the air was agitated without any rules. From time to time, huge fireballs suddenly fell from the sky, crashing to the ground. It set off towering lava waves. This is 10,000 miles of burning beach. In his 114th life, he had assisted in building the Heavenly Zon Spirit Locking Array in the Open Black Lens Bracket Spirit Transformation Stream Close Black Lens Bracket deep in this place. Could it be, recalling the Green River in the Spirit Transformation Stream that could suppress the activity of spiritual energy and was frightening, a guess could not help but appear in Li Fan's mind. And the fact was consistent with his guess. Passing through the 10,000 miles of burning beach, the three came to the top of the Spirit Transformation Stream. The Immortal Alliance cultivators mining Spirit Transformation stones here were unaware of their arrival. 1070, 3-point power to suppress the wilderness. Huang slumbers in the Spirit Transformation Azure River, located in the deepest part of this Spirit Transformation Stream. The Spirit Transformation stones that can suppress spiritual energy fluctuations here are formed by the accumulation of Spirit Transformation Azure River water over time. If Spirit Transformation stones have such effects, the Spirit Transformation Azure River is even more terrifying. Even a Tao harmonization cultivator risks drowning if they stay inside for too long. But this place is a rare cultivation holy land for Huang. With all spiritual energy fluctuations suppressed to the extreme, he can concentrate on refining his physical body. Zhou wore a solemn expression, opened his protective shield, and led the group to dive into the Spirit Transformation Azure River. They continued to descend. Unlike ordinary river water, which becomes darker the deeper you go, the Spirit Transformation Azure River water seemed to be its own light source. No matter how long they descended, the surroundings remained the same unnerving, bizarre azure color. The deep azure water was like an isolation zone, gradually shielding even Li Fan's perception, which was stronger than ordinary people. Fortunately, Li Fan asked Tian Yang and confirmed that his puppet body's materials and the essence of source power were not affected by the Spirit Transformation River water, which put his mind at ease. As if sensing Li Fan's unease, Tian Yang proactively placed a layer of protective energy around Li Fan. These slight energy fluctuations caught the attention of the two law-transmitting envoys. Senior Tian is truly skilled. This place was one of the Immortal Alliance's major secret areas, so they had naturally been here before and had long mastered a way to barely move in the Spirit Transformation Azure River. However, this elder Tian from the Myriad Realms Union seemed completely unaffected. Their assessment of Tian Yang's strength rose a little further. "We're here, looking at a vortex below," Law Transmitting Envoy Zhou said softly. Li Fan looked in the direction he indicated and saw a gaunt figure hidden within the vortex. The vortex lasted for a while, but suddenly subsided. Then, the direction of the vortex changed, and it violently gushed spirit transformation river water upwards. Li Fan then realized that the vortex was generated by that gaunt figure, inhaling and exhaling river water with each breath. "Is that Huang?" Almost reduced to a skeleton, Huang's appearance seemed to have nothing to do with a strong physical body. However, the faint dark gold color of his skin, even in the depths of this azure river, was so conspicuous. It vaguely indicated the extraordinary nature of his body. "Huang is currently asleep. If we rashly wake him, we will inevitably face his storm-like attacks." Zhou glanced at Tian Yang and said. Li Fan's heart stirred. Tian Yang wore a proud expression, flew forward, and slapped Huang on the head. Law Transmitting Envoys Zhou and Wei's eyelids twitched. Instinctively grabbing Li Fan, they moved directly upwards, distancing themselves slightly. After a moment of silence, a terrifying aura, like a volcanic eruption, suddenly appeared from the depths of the river. Huang opened his eyes from his slumber, like a primordial beast, ruthless and savage. Instantly locking onto Tian Yang's small body. With traces of golden light emerging in his eyes, Huang looked at Tian Yang, who was standing quietly in front of him, and raised his palm high. Boom! The calm, silent spirit transformation azure river suddenly surged. The river water instantly became turbulent, and Li Fan and the other two bystanders could only barely maintain their footing in the raging rapids. However, Huang's palm, about to fall and containing destructive power, was firmly grasped by a delicate hand. Unable to move even an inch. Huang's expression changed drastically. He tried to break free from his tightly locked right hand. But even after unleashing all the strength in his body, he still couldn't escape. His body instantly shrank, and Huang transformed from a gaunt middle-aged man into a starving child. After breaking free from Tian Yang's control, he retreated violently. "Just who are you?" Being defeated by this suddenly appearing stranger in the realm of absolute confidence in strength. The shock in Huang's heart was unimaginable. He didn't show the legendary madness at all, but cautiously sized up Tian Yang. "Ha ha ha ha, Huang, I never thought I would see you get the short end of the stick." Law Transmitting Envoy Wei's voice came from above, and Huang then noticed the three onlookers, Li Fan. "Don't be surprised, Huang. This is Senior Tian from the Myriad Realms Union. His strength has reached the Eternal Life Realm. It's normal for you to be no match for him," Zhou explained with an undisguised smile on his face. Myriad Realms Union, what is that? Huang didn't give the two former colleagues in front of him a good look. "How long have I been asleep?" "Only 15 years, Huang said with some surprise. "I should be questioning you. You claim to monitor Xuanwang, but you are completely ignorant of such a powerful force as the Myriad Realms Union hidden in the Xuanwang realm." Zhou transmitted privately. He also informed him of everything that had happened in the Immortal Alliance recently in detail. The remnants of Xuantian are causing trouble, seizing the Law Transmitting Envoys. Taking over the nest, gaining control of the Myriad Immortals Alliance. Hearing of such a change, Huang didn't show any particular anger. Instead, he was calmly thinking. He kept asking Law Transmitting Envoy Zhou for all sorts of details. "How much have you found out about the details of this Myriad Realms Union?" "Nothing, don't look at me like that. This so-called union seems to have appeared out of thin air. We can't find any roots or origins. It doesn't match any of the hidden powerhouses we have records of. If it weren't for the fact that only our Xuanwang realm is left in this starry sky, I would really suspect that they are people from other cultivation worlds." The three Law Transmitting Envoys quickly exchanged information. Then, they all looked at Li Fan and Tian Yang. Thanks to Senior Tian's help, otherwise, according to Huang's morning grumpiness, he would definitely cause a big commotion and attract the attention of the cultivators in the spirit transformation stream above. Maybe Chen would notice something. Wei cupped his hands and said with some relief. Huang looked unfriendly, while Zhou had a smiling expression. "Your strength is great. I also used 30% of my full strength to suppress you." Without Li Fan's instructions, Tian Yang saw Huang's unwillingness and spoke to comfort him. Huang's face became even more unsightly. Because he knew that a powerhouse like Tian Yang had no need to exaggerate. 30% of his strength, Huang felt a sense of powerlessness and hope in his heart. Following the Heavenly Lord's method, he had been refining his body day and night for thousands of years. He had vaguely felt that he had reached some kind of limit. Because he was a law-transmitting envoy, he could no longer defy the laws of heaven and earth. His path seemed to have come to an end. But the appearance of this senior Tien seemed to bring him a glimmer of hope. Huang had always acted straightforwardly, and he directly asked for guidance in front of everyone. 1071. The 1057th Palm, Preview of World Destruction. Having received Li Fan's permission, Tianyang's body instantly began to change. A faint azure light enveloped him, and his skin took on a metallic texture. Tianyang spoke slowly in a voice that was both mechanical and childlike. A body of flesh and blood has natural disadvantages. How can it compare to a body of metal and stone? Like me, all the rare and precious materials in the world can be transformed into nourishment to strengthen my body. The theoretically highest limit of the Great Tao is the limit of my physical body. As Tianyang spoke, he clenched his fist slightly, as if an infinite suction force was generated from the center of his palm. Deep within the transformation spirit river, a huge vortex instantly formed. The immense power it brought nearly made it impossible for Li Fan and the three law-transmitting ones, including Huang, to stabilize their bodies in the turbulent flow. After gathering his strength, Tianyang slowly threw a punch towards Huang. The three law-transmitting ones all changed color. However, Huang was locked onto by the force of the punch and could not move his body at all. Seeing Tianyang's slow punch about to strike him head-on. At this critical moment, a burst of golden light suddenly erupted from Huang's two heads and four eyes. The sound of his bones cracking inch by inch echoed like a rainstorm, and his originally thin body swelled up like a balloon in the blink of an eye. His whole body was covered in sharp, angular muscles like knife carvings, and Huang roared, using all four hands to protect himself in front of him, trying to block Tianyang's small fist. A muffled sound like thunder resounded. The two's fists collided and were deadlocked in place. After a moment, Tianyang slowly retracted his fist. This time, I used 50% of my strength. But it's far from my limit. But it should be your limit. After he finished speaking, Huang slumped like mud, his entire body collapsing into a pile. After a brief moment of shock, the law-transmitting ones Zhou and Wei both realized that Huang's life was not in danger. It was just due to excessive consumption of energy. The defeated Huang did not become angry or resentful. Instead, he began to ponder what Tianyang had said. To replace flesh and blood with a body of metal and stone. In fact, he had considered taking this path before. However, after all, he was a human cultivator, and he was ultimately apprehensive about abandoning his flesh and blood and transforming into a mechanical puppet-like existence. Most importantly, there was no precedent to follow. Once the transformation was complete, there would be no turning back. If the power of the metal and stone body was ultimately not as good as the flesh and blood body, wouldn't he become a laughingstock among all the law-transmitting ones? But today, Tianyang's appearance showed him a brand new and seemingly limitless path. Perhaps, I can use this to break the shackles of the heavenly venerate and become the only law-transmitting one with true immortality. A dangerous thought emerged from the bottom of Huang's heart. Once it appeared, it began to corrode Huang's mind uncontrollably. Li Fan, who was observing the subtle changes in Huang's expression not far away, knew that the seed had been planted. He couldn't help but smile inwardly. Without the essence of source power, it was impossible to achieve Tianyang's current strength by simply relying on the transformation of a metal and stone body. Once Huang began an irreversible attempt, but repeatedly ran into obstacles and became desperate. At that time, he would definitely seek Tianyang's help at all costs. When he needed help, Li Fan would have 10,000 ways to manipulate this person. With the help of that punch just now, Tianyang quietly absorbed a large amount of the transformation spirit river water. Seeing that his goal had been achieved, Li Fan had Tianyang return to his original state and return to his side. The two law-transmitting ones also quickly stepped forward to heal Huang. This is not a place to stay for long. Let's go back first. The group then quietly flew out of the transformation spirit creek. The disturbance of the transformation spirit river caused by the fight had, after all, attracted the attention of the cultivators guarding the transformation spirit creek. However, after investigating, they could not find the cause. According to the 10,000 Immortals Alliance's principle of not looking for trouble, they did not choose to report the matter. Inside law-transmitting one Zhou's private small world, Tianyang's attack, crushing law-transmitting one Huang, undoubtedly confirmed his strength at the longevity realm. So everyone began to formally discuss the next plan. Still the top floor of the Neon Light Seas high-rise building. Huang's injuries had already healed on the way back. One head's eyes were tightly closed, while the other head was secretly sizing up Tianyang behind Li Fan. Tianyang also closed his eyes and pretended to be asleep. The discussion was still led by Li Fan, Zhou, and Wei. With Huang's joining, the possibility of persuading Zhang to convene the Oath of the Law-Transmitting Ones is almost 100%. We just need to lure him out according to the plan. Li Fan interjected at the right time. According to the assessment of the elders of the United Association, combined with the current actual situation of the profound yellow world, the final proposed plan was given. To create enough momentum, and this trouble must be solved by Zhang, a non-law transmitting one in the 10,000 Immortals Alliance. And it can't really destroy the profound yellow world. Li Fan paused and revealed a mysterious smile. What do you two think of this plan? He lightly tapped his index finger in the void, and a small golden light ball flew closer. After reviewing the contents of the light ball, law-transmitting ones Zhou and Wei both flashed a hint of surprise in their eyes. Good. After exchanging glances, the two nodded. Good. In that case, my Myriad Worlds United Association can begin formal preparations. But the play must be acted realistically, and we still need the two of you to cooperate. Don't worry. Although we were expelled from the Law-Transmitting Ones Council, we have, after all, been deeply involved for many years and still have some control over the various states of the Immortal Alliance. Assisting your United Association in completing this world-destroying drama will definitely not be a problem, Law-Transmitting One Zhou said in a deep voice. After further detailed discussions, Li Fan then left with Tianyang. Returning to the Spirit Wood world, Tianyang poured out the transformation spirit river water he had taken. It was studied by specialists such as layman skillful craftsmen to see if it could be replicated and mass-produced. Li Fan then came to the world destruction space and took out one of the experimental products. Although it was said to be a play to attract law-transmitting one Zhang, in Li Fan's view, this was a rehearsal for the final destruction of the world in this life. Many arrangements can be made in advance through the hands of these law-transmitting ones by taking advantage of this opportunity. The law-transmitting ones are closely related to the law-transmitting heavenly venerate. At that time, even if the faceless true immortal and the immortal ruins immortals can faintly perceive that someone is plotting behind this, they will first suspect the law-transmitting ones. Even if the law-transmitting one's current strength is not yet able to directly contend with the true immortals, they should be able to hold on for a moment. Thinking like this, Li Fan turned on the soul-burning full-load state. He began to create the props needed for world destruction with maximum efficiency. Slowly, the originally somewhat empty world destruction space gradually became filled. 3 months of preparation time passed in a flash. Under the collusion of Li Fan and the 3 law-transmitting ones, all states of the 10,000 Immortals Alliance began to have various unusual events appearing. 1072. The Tao swallows the heaven and earth. In Shilin province, the first change noticed by the cultivators was that the spiritual energy of the world seemed to have thinned out somewhat. This was no small matter. After receiving feedback from the cultivators, Shilin Immortal City immediately sent people to investigate. According to the calculation results, this was not just their imagination. The spiritual energy concentration of the entire Shilin province had indeed decreased compared to before. Although the decrease was not significant, it still caused panic among the cultivators of Shilin province. Moreover, because this phenomenon seemed to only occur within the borders of Shilin province, and there was no precedent to learn from, the cultivators of Shilin province had to explore the reasons themselves. The result was astonishing. In the 100-stone cave heaven of Shilin province, that is, the huge underground karst cave on the border of the province, a kind of black worm had emerged at some unknown time. These worms were densely packed, occupying almost the entire underground cave. They greedily devoured and absorbed the spiritual energy of the world, multiplying and propagating at a terrifying rate. The scene of the black worms filling the field of vision sent chills down the spines of almost all the cultivators who witnessed it. After finding the cause of the anomaly, the cultivators of Shilin province quickly responded. They organized cultivators to go to the 100-stone cave heaven to carry out a large-scale extermination of these black worms. Originally, they thought that with the power of cultivators to move mountains and overturn seas, it would be easy to eliminate these worms. However, the severity of the matter far exceeded the imagination of the cultivators of Shilin province. First of all, the vitality of this black worm was unbelievably tenacious. They feed on spiritual energy, so when the cultivator's spiritual power bombarded them, the power would be weakened slightly after being devoured. This also led to the more black worms there were, the stronger the resistance to spiritual power moves. With the density of black worms in the underground 100-stone cave heaven, even if a nascent soul cultivator took action, it would not cause any waves at all. On the contrary, they would be besieged and sucked dry of their spiritual energy, resulting in a miserable death. And how many transformation god cultivators are there in Shilin province? In the face of the vast ocean of underground black worms, a dozen or 20 transformation god cultivators are just a drop in the bucket. Logically speaking, this situation could only be solved by a Dao harmonization cultivator. However, unfortunately, the Dao harmonization cultivator sitting in Shilin province had left Shilin province for some reason some time ago and had not returned. The communications sent were also like stones sinking into the sea, with no reply. Therefore, the insect extermination operation in Shilin province fell into a predicament not long after it started. The only thing that could make the cultivators of Shilin province feel a little relieved was that the black worms did not seem to have any intention of leaving the underground and expanding outwards. But with such a group of terrifying creatures living underground, anyone would feel uneasy. Shilin Immortal City had no choice but to seek help from the Immortal Alliance headquarters. Deep in the underground 100-stone cave heaven, the shadow of the law transmitter Joe looked at the black worms crawling all over the walls of the cave, a trace of fear flashing in her eyes. She had personally witnessed how this thing had multiplied from just one to what it is today. At first, she didn't care much about what Li Fan said about a little bit of harm. But now, she is avoiding it as if it were a plague and dare not come here in person. Fellow Taoist, will this thing really not get out of control? She asked with a gloomy expression. Li Fan touched the Dao Yi Worm Queen lying in his hand and smiled, relax. Profound Yellow Realm is our common home. Without absolute certainty, how could our United Association use it rashly? All the black worms are born from this Dao Yi Worm Queen in my hand. Their lives are all tied to the Worm Queen. As long as you kill it, this insect plague will collapse. As if feeling the killing intent in Li Fan's heart, the chubby Worm Queen rolled over in place and arched around in Li Fan's hand uneasily. Law Transmitter Joe stared at the Worm Queen for a long time before nodding slightly. It is estimated that within a month, the spiritual energy concentration in Shilin province will drop to the extreme. The resulting spiritual energy vacuum will cause a huge spiritual energy storm to sweep through the surrounding states. At that time, we will lift the spiritual ceiling barrier. At that time, along with these storms, the black worms will spread to the entire profound yellow realm in a very short period of time. In front of Li Fan, a virtual light and shadow simulating this catastrophe appeared. It is estimated that the whole process will not take more than 7 days. By the time the Myriad Immortals Alliance reports it layer by layer, makes decisions layer by layer, and makes a decision, it will be too late. At that time, the profound yellow realm cultivators will face a sudden arrival of the era of the end of Dharma. Li Fan's tone was a little excited, and he once again told Law Transmitter Joe the entire plan. Law Transmitter Joe narrowed her eyes, and for some reason, a bad feeling suddenly rose in her heart. However, such a huge organization as the Myriad Realms United Association would definitely not allow the profound yellow realm to really be destroyed. Presumably everything is under control. Law Transmitter Joe felt a little relieved. Although this black worm is terrifying, it can only catch people off guard at most. When the Myriad Immortals Alliance cultivators collectively react, it is not too difficult to kill this black worm. Li Fan knew that what the other party said was the truth, and he smiled slightly. What we need is this window period. If it is just an insect plague, Law Transmitter Zhang will definitely not show up in person. But if the spiritual energy mutates after it is restored, threatening the lives of all cultivators, I am afraid he will have to show up. Law Transmitter Joe nodded. That kind of spiritual energy does have the effect of disturbing the mind. Even with my state of mind, after absorbing some of it, it is difficult to suppress the urge to have a big fight with Huang. If it spreads in the profound yellow realm, Law Transmitter Joe seemed to have seen a scene of blood everywhere. With 2 kinds of small insects, you can pose such a big threat to the world. You Myriad Realms United Association. Law Transmitter Joe's shadow stared at Li Fan with a strange expression. Threat? No way, no way. Li Fan shook his head decisively to deny it. As soon as Zhang shows up, I will activate the clues I have left in advance to attract him here. Then, I will leave it to you. As for the spiritual energy problem in the profound yellow realm, there is no need to worry. After the black worms die, the spiritual energy they devour will be returned to the world. Everything will return to the original point, Li Fan said lightly. La Transmitter Zhou had also verified this matter, so she had no objection. However, what she didn't know was that Li Fan had concealed many things in addition to the public information. For example, there are actually 2 Dao Yi worm queens. Only when both of them die at the same time will this mutated Dao Yi worm race disappear. For example, it is true that the Dao Yi worms will return most of the spiritual energy after death. But a small part of it will still be transferred to the worm queen's body as a supply. For example, spiritual energy is to the profound yellow realm as blood is to the human body. In a short period of time, the blood in the body is replaced once. It is really hard to say what kind of changes will happen to the profound yellow realm. 1073. The Immortal Alliance's Golden Sword emerges. Li Fan determined that the re-emerging spiritual energy attributes would, to some extent, influence the Xuanwang world after observing the open black lens bracket fake Edict of Heaven close black lens bracket several times. For example, if the spiritual energy contained the attribute of slaughter, it might encourage cultivators in the Xuanwang world to kill. If the spiritual energy contained the attribute of chaos, it would likely cause the laws of the Xuanwang world to become unpredictable and extremely strange. Before I transmigrated, I heard urban legends about people's personalities gradually becoming like the original owners of transplanted organs. The heavenly Tao is like a person, the heavenly doctor is indeed truthful. In Li Fan's world-destroying space, there were more than a dozen types of mutated Tao 1 insects sealed. Each one possessed unique spiritual energy attributes that would allow Li Fan to modify the Xuanwang world to some extent according to his own ideas after the spiritual disaster. He could accomplish this alone, without any help from the preachers. He could easily replicate this process in every future reincarnation. The so-called cooperation with the preachers in this life was merely to spread the various arrangements for triggering the doomsday calamity to the Xuanwang world in advance. It had nothing to do with this spiritual disaster. The preachers Zhou and Wei, although they appeared to be the ones orchestrating the spiritual disaster, were already deeply involved in Li Fan's world-destroying scheme. Everything in Shilin province was proceeding according to Li Fan's predictions. When the Immortal Alliance headquarters received the request for help from Shilin Immortal City, they didn't pay much attention to it due to their habitual arrogance. After all, it was just a mere insect plague. A Dao integration cultivator could easily suppress and resolve it. Compared to the various emergencies reported by other provinces, this was really nothing major. So, after some evaluation, the Immortal Alliance headquarters decided to follow the usual procedure for handling general affairs. First, they would send a special envoy to Shilin province to verify the truth of the matter. Then, they would dispatch the corresponding Dao integration cultivator to solve this minor problem. But by the time the Immortal Alliance special envoy arrived in Shilin province, personally witnessed the horror of the insect plague, and hurriedly returned. With the first-hand information brought back by the special envoy, the Immortal Alliance headquarters increased its attention to the matter somewhat. But not by much. After discussing it for a long time, and repeatedly inquiring among the many Dao integration cultivators whether they had any free time, they finally decided on the person to deal with the disaster, Immortal Venerable Golden Sword. When Immortal Venerable Golden Sword released his thousands of golden swords, the spiritual power was restrained, only harming people with the sharp sword edges. It was perfect for dealing with these black insects. Immortal Venerable Golden Sword agreed readily after receiving the Immortal Alliance's appointment. However, Immortal Venerable Golden Sword also stated in advance that he was participating in a very important exchange conference and couldn't get away. He would only have time after about 7 days. The Immortal Alliance headquarters evaluated this sudden situation again. The participants unanimously agreed that the insect plague wouldn't undergo any particularly major changes in just 7 days. Waiting wouldn't hurt. After all, other Dao integration Immortal Venerables might not be as efficient as Immortal Venerable Golden Sword. And every Dao integration Immortal Venerable was extremely busy. Even if they changed to someone else, they might not be able to find the time. In fact, there were quite a few Dao integration cultivators at the Immortal Alliance headquarters who had free time. However, under normal circumstances, this kind of thankless task would only be arranged for outside Dao integrations to handle. Deliberately finding a tricky task to transfer a headquarters DAO integration cultivator away for a period of time was often seen as a prelude to some kind of provocation or conspiracy, and wouldn't be used lightly. Everyone at the Immortal Alliance headquarters saw each other often. Most adhered to the idea of harmony brings wealth. In short, due to various conventions, by the time Immortal Venerable Golden Sword confidently bid farewell to the two preacher adults and officially went to Shilin province to deal with the insect plague. Almost half a month had passed since the outbreak of the insect plague. As usual, after arriving in Shilin province, Immortal Venerable Golden Sword didn't rush to the scene of the insect plague immediately. Instead, he participated in the warm welcome ceremony held by the Shilin province cultivators. The guests were all happy, and it was very successful. The next day, Immortal Venerable Golden Sword rested as usual. On the third day, accompanied by the crowd, he arrived at the 100-stone grotto, which was covered in black insects. After personally seeing the overwhelming, dense black insects in the underground cave, the hearts of these confident DAO integration Immortal Venerables couldn't help but skip a beat. But after all, he was an old brand Immortal Venerable, and didn't show his emotions. He immediately summoned his thousands of golden swords and launched a massacre against these black insects. After taking action, Golden Sword felt a little relieved. Under his sharp sword edge, these black insects, which had a strong resistance to spiritual power techniques, were like paper. Large swaths died with each strike, and in a short while, the cave in front of him was cleaned up. Looking at the overjoyed and worshipful gazes of the Shilin province people, Immortal Venerable Golden Sword felt quite proud. "How big is this underground cave?" he asked casually, intending to finish this troublesome matter as soon as possible. But the answers he received caught him off guard. "Don't know. What do you mean?" Immortal Venerable Golden Sword's expression became a little unsightly. The explanation from the Shilin province cultivators made Immortal Venerable Golden Sword gasp. It turned out that the so-called 100-stone grotto was a huge underground cave on the border of Shilin province. Inside the cave, countless road branches crisscrossed. Every so often, it would suddenly open up, forming a wide underground hall. The hall was full of strange rocks, growing wildly from the top down and the walls outward. They were of various shapes, resembling humans and beasts, which was unsettling. Many cultivators had lost their way in it and never returned. As for how big this 100-stone grotto was, it had not been fully explored to this day. Some cultivators speculated that the ancient beast called Guiyuan clam dug out this 100-stone grotto. Although no cultivator had seen such a beast in thousands of years, it was possible that one or two Guiyuan clams still survived in the depths of this endless underground maze. The entire underground of Shilin province may have been hollowed out. Why didn't you say such an important thing earlier? The thought of facing black insects the size of an entire province made Immortal Venerable Golden Sword's face turn black. We reported this matter in full when we reported to the Immortal Alliance headquarters. Facing Immortal Venerable Golden Sword's questioning, the Shilin province cultivators also looked innocent. Immortal Venerable Golden Sword's face was ashen. Deeply aware of the seriousness of the situation, he didn't waste any words and rushed into the depths of the cave with his sword. Because the clan was being slaughtered wantonly, the DAO 1 insect mother seemed a bit agitated. She rolled her round body. But it was only agitation. This degree of quantity reduction was not even as fast as the insect swarm's own rate of extinction. Even if 3 more Golden Sword Immortal Venerables came, they would not be able to pose any threat to the DAO 1 insect swarm. 1074. The black tide of world destruction rises. Ultimately, the Wangxian Alliance misjudged the potential number of DAO 1 insects that might exist beneath Shilin province. The underground karst caves twist and turn, not only occupying an area almost equivalent to the entirety of Shilin province, but also constantly expanding deeper underground. Even Li Fan, who now controls the entire swarm, has yet to figure out just how large this 100-stone grotto heaven of Shilin province truly is. Thanks to such a vast breeding ground, the DAO 1 insects have been able to proliferate so rapidly. In less than a month, they can devour all the spiritual energy of an entire province. A piece of paper may be thin and easily torn with a flick of the finger. But if enough are stacked together, they can withstand 1,000 troops and horses. With just you alone, how can you possibly kill them all? Feeling the number of DAO 1 insects, which, even under the Golden Sword Immortal's slaughter, still increased rather than decreased, Li Fan revealed a strange smile. Huff, huff. Looking at another cleared underground cave, the Golden Sword Immortal finally felt a trace of fatigue. He hadn't stopped for a moment during this time. Thousands of golden swords crisscrossed, illuminating one dark underground cave after another, leaving behind a ground full of black insect corpses. How many black insects had he slaughtered? 10 billion? 100 billion? Even with his Tao integrating Immortal Venerable's spiritual power reserves, he was now almost completely drained. But here, it seemed that because it was deep underground, the number of black insects was too large. The spiritual energy was very thin, making it impossible to absorb and replenish himself. Helpless, the Golden Sword Immortal had to rely on absorbing the spiritual stones stored within his body to slowly recover. It has been many years since I have been in such a state. Sitting cross-legged on the ground, the Golden Sword Immortal couldn't help but sigh. Images floated into his mind of when he was still a Foundation establishment cultivator, exploring the sect's ruins with his companions. Suddenly, he inexplicably stood up, his expression becoming serious. Because he finally realized what that inexplicable feeling in his heart had been ever since he stepped into this 100-stone grotto heaven. It was the warning from his spiritual sense, which hadn't appeared in a long time. 300 years ago, it was precisely because of this keen intuition that he became the only survivor of that exploration team. However, after surviving that disaster, everything had gone smoothly, and he had never encountered any more misfortunes. He had almost forgotten this sense of crisis. Until today, after many years, this spiritual warning reappeared. The Golden Sword Immortal's heart pounded uncontrollably. His thoughts raced, and he immediately made a decision. He didn't even bother to rest, his figure transforming into golden light, speeding towards the depths of the underground cave. He wanted to see just how large this 100-stone grotto heaven was. 3 days later, the Golden Sword Immortal's face was pale. With his flying speed, 3 days was enough to circle the Wanxian Alliance's territory several times. But he still hadn't been able to explore the 100-stone grotto heaven completely. It was like an abyss, unfathomable, as if there was no end to it. The Golden Sword Immortal shuddered, and images of the cave filled with dense black insects, like surging seawater, overflowing outwards, immediately flooded his mind. Disaster, disaster. No, I have to quickly report the situation to the Immortal Alliance headquarters. The Golden Sword Immortal hurriedly took out a communication talisman, wanting to contact the Immortal Alliance headquarters. But it seemed that due to being too deep underground, communication could not be established. The ominous premonition in the Golden Sword Immortal's heart grew stronger. He increased his speed to the extreme, wanting to leave this underground cave. But for some reason, those black insects, which had originally been quietly lying there eating spiritual energy, suddenly swarmed towards him like madmen, trying to stop him from continuing forward. The Golden Sword Immortal finally realized what it meant to be in a difficult situation. No longer holding back, all the golden swords refined in his body were unsheathed, surrounding him, grinding all the black insects blocking his path into dust. The Golden Sword Immortal, with an indomitable aura, quickly returned from underground. The difference in the black insects before and after made the Golden Sword Immortal even more certain that there were traces of a conspiracy behind this. If he didn't stop it quickly, it would probably affect not only Shailan province. Perhaps the entire Wanxian Alliance, or even the Xuanwang world, would suffer. Who exactly is plotting this heinous thing? The Golden Sword Immortal was both shocked and angry, his figure becoming even faster. When he finally broke through the heavy obstacles of the black insects and saw the light of day again. Just as he was preparing to report the situation to the Immortal Alliance headquarters urgently, he suddenly felt something and froze in place. The Golden Sword Immortal looked up and stretched out his left hand towards the sky. The wind is rising. A breeze inexplicably blew between heaven and earth. Then the breeze gradually grew larger, becoming more and more intense. The whistling sound was like thunder, rumbling. Originally, it was a sunny day, but in the blink of an eye, it was covered by layers of dark clouds. Under the shroud of shadows, all the cultivators in Shailan province felt a sense of impending doom. Whoosh! A gust of demonic wind blew past. The force of the wind was so strong that the Golden Sword Immortal found it difficult to maintain his figure. Although this demonic wind disappeared in an instant, the meaning behind it made the Tao integrating Immortal Venerable's heart turn cold. He seemed to hear a subtle, dense wind sound in his ears again. But the Golden Sword Immortal didn't sense any signs of wind. Just as he was puzzled, countless flying insects, like a black giant wave, suddenly appeared from below. Rising with the wind, they surged out of the 100-stone cave. Soaring into the sky, like a doomsday cloud, spreading towards the various states of the Xuanwang world in an unstoppable manner. In the face of the immeasurable black insect tide, the Golden Sword Immortal's protective spiritual power was as fragile as a small sapling in a storm. Feeling horrified, the Golden Sword Immortal could no longer muster the will to stop the disaster. He just tried his best to ensure his own safety. The black insects in the underground cave seemed to be endless. As far as the Golden Sword Immortal could see, he could no longer see any other scene. Falling into the nightmare of the black tide, moving and breathing became like wishful thinking. Even if they weren't the direct target of the black insect's attack, but were just crushed along the way during their migration. Under the sweep of the boundless black insect tide, the Tao integrating Immortal Venerable gradually lost consciousness. It's over. In the moment before losing consciousness, what first appeared in the Golden Sword Immortal's mind wasn't the safety of his own life, but rather the Wangxian Alliance's subsequent accountability after the insect plague was resolved. Damn it, if I had known, I wouldn't have agreed to this damn errand. His figure slowly faded, and finally turned into a golden long sword seemingly composed of thousands of small swords, falling to the ground with a clang. Indeed, with the strength of the black insects, they could at most exhaust a Tao integrating cultivator and make them lose consciousness for a short time. Wanting to kill them, however, was a bit insufficient. But Li Fan's figure emerged from the black tide. He picked up the golden long sword, a smile appearing on the corner of his mouth. Then, he casually placed tens of thousands of formation restrictions on it. 1075. Dead insects still have their spirit. With Linzhou City as its epicenter, a terrifying spiritual energy storm suddenly swept across the entire Xuanwang Great World. The wind howled and echoed. Even the various heavenly cities of the Myriad Immortals Alliance, which perpetually floated in the sky as if they would never fall, trembled to varying degrees under the influence of the hurricane. However, the gale was only a minor issue. What horrified the cultivators of the Immortal Alliance was the countless black insects, like dark clouds, that appeared from nowhere. They blotted out the sky and covered the earth, engulfing Xuanwang. Before the Myriad Immortals Alliance could react, the insect plague had already spread to every corner of its territory. In just half a day, the spiritual energy concentration in the Xuanwang realm plummeted drastically. In this moment of crisis, the Myriad Immortals Alliance finally demonstrated its ability to act as one of the two major rulers of the Xuanwang realm. All Hedao stage cultivators within the alliance, regardless of their current tasks, were required to participate in exterminating the black insects. Those below the Hedao stage who were confident in their abilities could also join the extermination efforts. Rewards would be bestowed upon them in the future. Those whose strength and cultivation level were insufficient were to seek refuge in the heavenly cities, cave dwellings, or the heavenly Zon mirror during this period, and wait for the disaster to pass. Once the Immortal Alliance's decree was issued, the situation in each state changed dramatically. Besides being able to devour spiritual energy and rapidly reproduce in large quantities, the mutated Dao 1 insects did not possess any other special offensive or defensive capabilities. After suffering some losses, the Myriad Immortals Alliance quickly found the most effective method to deal with the black insects. They used a special technique to mobilize immense divine sense, forcefully controlling the black insect swarms, causing them to kill each other and rapidly deplete their numbers. Using this method, 2 Hedao stage cultivators could clear an entire state of the insect plague in a short amount of time. After the Myriad Immortals Alliance popularized this secret technique called Insect Sovereign, the rampant insect plague showed signs of being disintegrated in an instant. Deep within the 100-stone grotto heaven, Li Fan, through the senses of the Dao 1 insect mothers, meticulously noted all the cultivators from the Immortal Alliance who had performed exceptionally well in this insect plague. He then compared them with the information in the heavenly Zon mirror. These are the true high-level combat forces of the Immortal Alliance. As long as these people don't fall, the Myriad Immortals Alliance won't face any particularly major dangers. But if these people are dealt with first, the lack of backbone strength will instantly plunge the Myriad Immortals Alliance into an awkward situation where no one is available. At that time, even a very small disaster can cause a huge impact. After pondering for a moment, Li Fan's thoughts returned to reality. Feeling the steadily decreasing number of insect swarms, he couldn't help but furrow his brow. The Insect Sovereign's method of manipulating the insect swarms and turning them against each other was somewhat beyond his expectations. Originally, the insect mother had absolute control over the insect swarm's offspring. The simple life form of the Tao 1 insects also meant that ordinary control methods would not work on them at all. But this insect sovereign's secret technique deprived the insect mother of its control by pretending to be the emperor of insects. Insect sovereign, with the heavenly Zon mirror's authority, Li Fan easily learned about this secret technique. In his opinion, this method seemed to have originated from the beast-controlling sect's beast-controlling wheel. Could it be that Emperor Sanmo helped? The new Tao 1 insects had not been completely deployed yet. If the insect plague ended at this moment, it might not achieve the goal of attracting the lot transmitter Zhang out. Then let's activate the backup plan. Li Fan pondered for a moment, and 2 Tao 1 insect mothers instantly appeared in his palm. Due to the large number of insect swarm deaths, their bodies were no longer as round as they were at the beginning. They looked somewhat listless. At the same time, they vigilantly and greedily stared at each other. That was the instinct to try to survive the crisis by devouring their own kind. Looking at these 2 little insects that stirred up the Xuanwang situation, Li Fan's eyes did not have the slightest fluctuation. With a slight force, he instantly crushed them all to death. Along with Li Fan's actions, the entire sky of the Xuanwang realm changed. The black insects that had been densely covering the sky and constantly making subtle noises suddenly became silent. And then, like a rainstorm, they fell from the sky. The Immortal Alliance cultivators who were working hard to exterminate the black insects couldn't help but be a little stunned. They subconsciously retrieved these dead black insects to observe, and found that it was not a disguise. Seeing this scene, some breathed a sigh of relief, lamenting that the disaster had come and gone quickly. However, there were also some cultivators with sensitive spiritual senses who felt increasingly uneasy. They quickly reported the situation to the Immortal Alliance headquarters. In an instant, all the black insects that had ravaged the Xuanwang Great World died, leaving only corpses covering the ground. If these insect corpses were not disposed of as soon as possible, it would probably cause unknown troubles. After discussing it, the Immortal Alliance quickly issued an order. It announced that the cultivators who had previously taken refuge from the disaster could safely go outside, and at the same time assist in cleaning up the environment. It was not mandatory, but there were a lot of contribution points as rewards. So many cultivators could not resist the temptation and left the safe zone. They looked at the black insect corpses that covered the entire Xuanwang Great World and felt their scalps tingle. The bodies of the black insects were almost entirely composed of special energy that had been devoured and transformed by them. This energy was somewhat similar to spiritual energy, but it could not be absorbed and utilized by cultivators. When countless black insects died at the same time, these special energies quickly spread in the air as their corpses naturally decomposed. Only half a day later, the qualitative change caused by the quantitative change had already arrived. The strange smell permeating the air made the cultivators in it feel a burst of nausea. They couldn't control the urge to vomit. Everyone, hold your breath and isolate yourselves. This insect stench is poisonous. Nausea was only the most insignificant aspect. When a cultivator fainted because he had stayed in the insect stench environment for too long, the real trouble began. With a bang, the fainted cultivator's body exploded directly into pieces. Although he was quickly reborn from his cave dwelling, the strange smell in the air became even more unbearable after being mixed with the cultivator's flesh and blood. Moreover, this special fishy stench, as long as it interacted with the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, would enter the cultivator's body along the traces of spiritual energy fluctuations. Not all cultivators, like Li Fan, possessed the almost endless spiritual power resources of the 5 elements grotto heaven. Ordinary cultivators still needed to draw spiritual energy from the heavens and earth. Due to the previous insect plague, the spiritual energy concentration in the Xuanwang realm had already been reduced to an extremely low level. Before it had recovered, it was contaminated by insect stench and blood. This situation reached its peak as the black insect corpses completely decomposed. In the foul-smelling environment, even Yuanying stage cultivators could not stay for long. Only those above the Washan stage could rely on their powerful foundations to maintain normal activities. Even so, after wandering around in the outside foul-smelling environment, they would also experience varying degrees of nausea. How did the good Xuanwang realm suddenly become like this? Countless cultivators sighed from the bottom of their hearts. 1076, reborn with grievances. This stench was formless. It was even harder to deal with than the tangible black bugs. At the very least, more than 10 days had passed, and the Myriad Immortals Alliance had not been able to come up with a suitable solution. Some living beings couldn't bear the stench and exploded in agony, contributing their share to this extreme environment. This vicious cycle led to the fact that after so many days, the stench in the Xuanwang world hadn't improved at all. All the cultivators hid in cities with protective arrays activated, afraid to go outside. Looking at the bizarrely colored air outside, their faces were filled with worry. On Li Fan's side, he received a question from the transmitter Zhou. Friend, what are you doing? Didn't we agree to pretend to destroy the world? Why did you make the Xuanwang world so smoggy? Zhou seemed to be in a bad mood. Li Fan responded calmly, don't worry. This is a delaying tactic. In 3 months at most, these alien spiritual energies will be gradually diluted and return to normal with the natural flow of spiritual energy in the world. I know, but the smell is too disgusting. I feel it will cause indelible psychological shadows on our Xuanwang world cultivators. It's okay, they won't care about these little things soon, Li Fan smiled. Oh, has the second step of the plan begun? Zhou was also attracted by the important matter. Let's wait and see. The voices of the two gradually subsided. As Li Fan expected, even if nothing was done, the stench would naturally disappear in 3 months. Instead of racking their brains to study how to eliminate the stench, and not necessarily getting results, it's better to wait patiently. This was the decision made by the Immortal Alliance after comprehensive consideration. Of course, in order to completely solve this inexplicable disaster, the Immortal Alliance did not relax its patrols in various places. Nascent soul cultivators were scattered day and night to collect environmental change data. Seeing that everything was slowly getting better, and even the recovery speed of spiritual energy concentration far exceeded expectations, the Immortal Alliance slowly relaxed. However, in a corner that no one can currently know, a large number of new Dao 1 insects are rapidly breeding, using the corpses of the previously dead black insects. These Dao 1 insects do not devour spiritual energy. Instead, they spit out spiritual energy. The rapid recovery of spiritual energy in the Xuanwang world is naturally their credit. Under Li Fan's deliberate manipulation, they hid in various underground spiritual veins, integrating the spiritual energy they released with the spiritual energy generated by the operation of the heaven and earth, making it impossible to distinguish. The change happened slowly. 3 months later, all the odors had disappeared. The cultivators who had been suffocated for a long time came outdoors one after another, enjoying the fresh and beautiful spiritual energy. I never thought before that the natural spiritual energy of heaven and earth was so beautiful. Haha, without destruction, there is no creation. Observing this disaster, I feel something in my heart, and I am not far from breaking through. On such a good day, I should travel with my friends. The Immortal Alliance did not prevent the cultivators from relaxing. On the surface, this insect plague has completely passed. So the main energy of the Immortal Alliance was concentrated on investigating the origin of the insect plague. Shilinzhou, as the place where the incident broke out, was almost half of the cultivators were deprived of their posts due to improper handling and the spread of the insect plague. Even a few scapegoats were directly abolished and thrown into the U prison. The severity of the punishment measures was very rare. The Golden Sword Immortal Venerable, who mysteriously disappeared in the insect plague, became the main suspect. Obviously, the insect plague could not threaten the lives of Dao integration cultivators. Therefore, the Golden Sword Immortal Venerable, who was not seen alive or dead, was particularly suspicious. As the first Dao integration cultivator to come into contact with the insect plague, if he had reported the situation to the Immortal Alliance in time, it would definitely not have fallen into such an uncontrollable situation. The Immortal Alliance suffered heavy losses in this insect plague. Someone must stand up and take responsibility. The missing Golden Sword Immortal Venerable became the object of unanimous criticism. It's not enough to appease the people without killing him. Some cultivators used unusually harsh words. But after all, he is a Dao integration Immortal Venerable, and each one is a huge asset to the Myriad Immortals Alliance. They cannot be easily killed. So in the end, the Myriad Immortals Alliance issued an wanted order, ordering the Golden Sword Immortal Venerable to turn himself in as soon as possible and strive for leniency. No kill order was issued. As soon as the news came out, the Immortal Alliance was shaken. The Golden Sword Immortal Venerable suddenly seemed to have become the culprit of the insect plague, the object of universal condemnation. Everyone wished they could eat his flesh raw. Kill, kill, kill. For some reason, hostility arose from the hearts of the cultivators. But at that time, the cultivators attributed it to their resentment towards those who caused the insect plague. Until half a month later, a shocking case occurred. In Tianjin Prefecture, the Yu family suffered a tragedy. Overnight, more than 100 people up and down were all killed. All were massacred. After an investigation, people were shocked to discover that the culprit who committed such a bloody crime was actually Yu Chisong, the eldest son of the Yu family. He didn't know what opportunities he had, but it was clearly recorded that he was only in the nascent soul realm. But he was able to kill the nascent soul cultivators in the family silently. And he could also shield the induction of the heavenly Tao. It was not until 3 days later that the shielding failed. The visions of the cultivators' fall burst open, and people realized that this tragedy had occurred. In the peaceful Myriad Immortals Alliance, such a terrifying and bloody attack accident would actually happen. And the perpetrator was still a member of the family. The Immortal Alliance attached great importance to it and immediately launched an investigation. All kinds of gossip about the Yu family also spread like wildfire and went viral among the people. As the eldest son, he made great contributions to the development and growth of the family. But because he was not qualified enough, he was forced to give up the upcoming change of heaven and earth that he had discovered to others. Therefore, in a rage, he massacred all the members of the family. The Yu family's extermination case became the most popular topic of discussion among the public cultivators. Although the massacre of relatives is definitely a non-human thing. It should be a one-sided condemnation. But in the folk, I don't know why some discordant voices appeared. In my opinion, it's a good kill. That's right. Destroying one's path is like killing one's parents. What relatives? They are no longer relatives on the day they seize the upcoming change of heaven and earth. If it were me, I would choose to do the same. Kill. Originally, these words were just a minority. But I don't know why, as the discussion of the event became more and more popular, more and more people began to express their support. The views of the two sides are almost completely opposite and cannot coexist at all. In the face of each other, friction will inevitably occur. However, this kind of argument often happens, and the Myriad Immortals Alliance did not care about it at first. But what no one expected was that after the first bloody conflict broke out, like a chain reaction, large-scale bloody fights began to break out one after another in various parts of the Immortal Alliance. 1077. The past is dangerous. Initially, the Myriad Immortals Alliance still had some control over these increasingly irrational cultivators, and the immortal cities in each state were relatively safe. However, as both sides later became bloodshot, the Immortal Alliance's prohibitions became less effective. Cultivators would fight to the death in the city over a disagreement. At first, the city's punishment formations were still effective. Towering stone statues of Dharma transmission descended with white light, obliterating cultivators who violated the law. However, as more and more cultivators fought to the death, even the Myriad Immortals Alliance inevitably developed great concerns. They only selectively activated the city's grand formations. This impunity undoubtedly fueled the cultivators' frenzied fighting behavior. In this fanatical atmosphere, even the few remaining cultivators in the Xuanwang realm with relatively peaceful mindsets slowly changed. They began to participate in each other's slaughter. The mutual massacre of cultivators was not only reflected in real life. Even a feud in the Tianquan mirror could lead to bloodshed. A mysterious person named Open Black Lens Bracket Eye of the Gods Close Black Lens Bracket had gradually become well known among the cultivator community since some unknown time. This person's origins were unknown, but he possessed great power. As long as you told him a secret about yourself, he could provide you with the real identity of the cultivator behind the Tianquan mirror account you wanted to track. At first, the cultivators were somewhat skeptical. But practice makes perfect. The sudden deaths of hundreds of cultivators who were found by their enemies were the best proof of Open Black Lens Bracket Eye of the Gods Close Black Lens Bracket S strength. You should know that in the past, it was common for people to quarrel over trivial matters and then become enemies in the Tianquan mirror. However, because all information in the Tianquan mirror was strictly confidential, there was no way to understand the grudges even if you wanted to. You could only vent your anger from afar. Now, the appearance of the Eye of the Gods had changed everything. Have you ever offended someone because of a slip of the tongue? Don't want to be suddenly assassinated without any preparation? Then why not strike first? Under the secret instigation of the Eye of the Gods, the frequency of revenge killings in the Myriad Immortals Alliance increased again. The phenomenon of cultivators falling from the sky had become commonplace. The doomsday plan was progressing smoothly, but Li Fan's mood was not so good. In the 100-stone cave heaven of Shilin-zhou, two figures that looked extremely similar stood in front of a Tianquan mirror. One of them was Li Fan himself. The other was a pseudo-immortal puppet body that Li Fan had ordered the ingenious craftsman to forge for himself during this period. Without using the essence of origin power, the puppet body's strength could not reach the level of Tianyang, which was comparable to the longevity realm. However, Li Fan did not care about the puppet's actual combat power. Instead, he valued its ability to perfectly integrate with cultivators. At this moment, the mirror origin given by the Tianquan mirror had been transferred by Li Fan into this pseudo-immortal puppet. In order to deal with the Dharma transmitter Zhang who was about to come to his door, Li Fan also modified the consciousness implanted in the immortal puppet. In his cognition, he was truly a member of the vast myriad worlds federation, responsible for hunting down the remnants of the Xuantian sect. As for the memories about returning to truth and other secrets of Li Fan's main body, they were all gone. The immortal puppet Li Fan was naturally the open black lens bracket eye of the gods close black lens bracket who had risen sharply and become famous. He used the authority of the mirror origin to greatly promote the process of cultivators slaughtering each other. He also obtained a lot of confidential information from the cultivators' hearts. Although some of them seemed to be of no value at all, as long as they were collected, they might be useful in some future reincarnation. At this moment, the immortal puppet Li Fan was conscientiously playing the role of the Eye of the Gods. Li Fan's main body was frowning beside him. It's come to this point, and Mo Ruben and Tianquan Mirror haven't taken any action. Only the holder of the mirror origin can read the encrypted information of the Tianquan Mirror. Mo Ruben should have realized long ago that I am manipulating the recent series of doomsday events behind the scenes. But I have never noticed anyone following this line to investigate. Mo Ruben and Tianquan Mirror are like this, and even the Myriad Immortals Alliance is like this. Mo Ruben did not share information with the Myriad Immortals Alliance. Are they directly ignoring me? Or are they busy with more important things? Even though he had deduced countless possible scenarios in his mind, at this point, there were too many factors involved. It was unrealistic for everything to go smoothly according to the planned rehearsal. Li Fan could only adapt to the situation. But what he didn't expect was that before the third step of the plan had even begun, another inexplicable change caught him off guard. On this day, after the death fight of hundreds of cultivators ended, a strange blood-colored vortex appeared inexplicably, devouring all the brewing signs of cultivators' fall. The blood-colored vortex appeared in every place in the Xuanwang realm where cultivators had fallen. People were talking about the origin of this vortex. But it did not have any impact on the increasingly strong killing intent in their hearts. The killing continued. Li Fan raised his head and looked up at the increasing number of blood-colored holes in the sky, faintly feeling a familiar aura from them. Reversing life and death. At this critical moment, is the rebirth heavenly lord about to succeed in proving his Tao? As if to confirm Li Fan's guess. Soon after, endless crimson light spewed out from the holes in the sky. In addition to illuminating the world in a blood-red color, shadows of continuous and majestic palaces also appeared on the sky. The cultivators on the ground could not see the details of the palaces, only the open black lens bracket rebirth palace close black lens bracket in the very center fell into the eyes of all cultivators. At the same time as the three words open black lens bracket rebirth palace close black lens bracket appeared in their minds, information about it also appeared naturally. Death is not true death, but reincarnation. At this moment, the cultivators stopped fighting at the same time. They were in deep shock from this earth-shattering change. Different from the rebirth palace that Li Fan had experienced before. In this life, the Myriad Immortals Alliance could not control its operation. It had become a law of heaven and earth in the Xuanwang realm like open black lens bracket laws cannot be cultivated together close black lens bracket, and nothing could affect it except reversing the law again. Correspondingly, no cultivator could know the specific details about reincarnation at this moment. They only knew that from now on, there would be a open black lens bracket rebirth palace close black lens bracket in the world, which would completely change the future structure of the Xuanwang realm. How to reincarnate, whether the memory and cultivation base will still be there after reincarnation. These will have to wait until a cultivator experiences a complete reincarnation to reveal the answer. However, the fact that death is not death, but reincarnation, directly affected the cultivators' choices. The psychological burden of killing again sharply decreased. The cultivators of the Xuanwang realm all transformed into vicious and evil people, and they would fight to the death at the slightest displeasure. However, for Li Fan, the death of cultivators could not cause harm to the Xuanwang realm, so it lost its meaning. What's going on with this rebirth palace? Li Fan took the lead and attacked the Dharma transmitter Zhou and others. 1078. The earth veins are in trouble again. If I'm not mistaken, someone has succeeded in reversing the principles of life and death. The Xuanwang realm actually harbors such a figure. Such important information, and you didn't tell me in advance. Li Fan's voice held a hint of annoyance. With the existence of the Rebirth Palace, even if more cultivators die, it probably won't pose a threat to the Xuanwang realm. It seems the plan to force the Law Transmitter Zhang to show himself is going to fail. Li Fan sighed deeply. The Law Transmitter Zhou wore a somewhat puzzled expression. You might not believe it, but we Law Transmitters are also completely ignorant about this new Eternal Celestial Lord. I mean, not just the three of us who were exiled. Even those who are still in the Law Transmitter Council right now are the same. Law Transmitter Zhou said with certainty. Having said that, she stared at Li Fan with some suspicion. This Eternal Celestial Lord, isn't he really one of your Myriad Worlds Association's people? My first reaction at the time was, how is that possible? Li Fan directly shook his head in denial. The two exchanged a glance, both seeing the surprise and doubt in each other's eyes. It seems that the Xuanwang realm has been expanding for so many years, and the water is deeper than I imagined. Law Transmitter Wei's eyes were deep, and his brows were also tightly furrowed. This new celestial lord should have also infiltrated the Xuanwang realm at some unknown time and settled down since then. However, judging from his style of doing things, he has been cultivating silently and not interfering in worldly affairs for so many years. As long as we don't provoke him, there shouldn't be any major problems. Li Fan suddenly recalled the countless corpses frozen in the reversing life and death formation. He remained silent. The sudden appearance of the rebirth celestial lord is indeed difficult to predict. However, it is probably too early to say that our plan has failed. At this time, Law Transmitter Huang, who had been silent, suddenly spoke. Li Fan and the others immediately looked at Huang. In fact, we are only one step away from forcing Zhang out. The spiritual energy mutation in the Xuanwang realm, making cultivators bloodthirsty, is a major event that profoundly changes the structure of the Xuanwang realm. Bearing the heavy responsibility of maintaining Xuanwang's stability, the Myriad Immortals Alliance will definitely investigate and resolve this matter. As long as we kill all the Alliance members who come to investigate, one day, Zhang will have no choice but to take action. Anyway, the phenomenon of cultivators falling is no longer appearing, so even if we take action, we won't be exposed. Huang said matter-of-factly. Law Transmitters Zhou and Wei both revealed strange expressions upon hearing this. Li Fan nodded slightly, expressing his agreement. This is indeed a method. Then I'll have to trouble you. However, we cannot pin our hopes on Zhang taking the initiative to attack. I will go back and apply to the Alliance to see if a new doomsday plan can be activated. As Li Fan spoke, he directly cut off contact with the three Law Transmitters without waiting for their response. After the Rebirth Palace appeared, the lives of cultivators can no longer be regarded as a means of threat. We still have to start from the Xuanwang realm itself. The open black lens bracket absence close black lens bracket word incantation was already used once before when facing Law Transmitter Zhang. Although Law Transmitter Zhang seemed to have not retained the relevant memories after returning to his original state. But this time, it is only to force him to show himself and then solve Mo Ruben through him. Rather than truly antagonizing him. So it's still better not to choose the open black lens bracket absence close black lens bracket word incantation. Li Fan pondered for a moment, then still focused his attention on the mutated Dao 1 insects. After a period of reproduction, the Dao 1 insects that release killing spiritual energy have quietly occupied a large continuous area underground in the Xuanwang realm. It's just that under Li Fan's intentional control, in addition to normal reproduction and the release of spiritual energy, they have not done anything else out of line. Otherwise, with their current scale, triggering another great bloody stench in Xuanwang would be easy. After careful consideration, Li Fan changed his battle strategy. The enemy target was changed from the cultivators of the Xuanwang realm to the Xuanwang realm itself. In order to prevent being envied by the heavens and encountering any accidents when falsely claiming to be the heavenly Dao and absorbing Xuanwang's future changes. All subsequent manipulations of the insect swarm were completed by the immortal puppet Li Fan. Upon receiving the order from the insect mother, the mutated Dao-1 insects instantly became active. They did not fly towards the ground but continued to delve deeper underground. Following the flow of the earth vein spiritual energy, they began to gnaw on the branches of the ancient trees of the earth vein contained within. Li Fan had not forgotten that this ancient tree of the earth vein had occasionally provoked Lin Ling to betray him in secret before. Although Lin Ling was shocked by the strength he displayed and ultimately chose to abandon the darkness and turn to the light. But this does not mean that this matter is over. Lin Ling is currently working hard in the association to make up for her mistakes. Now is also the time to settle the score with this ancient tree of the earth vein. The ancient tree of the earth vein is deeply rooted underground. Its roots spread throughout Xuanwang. But its main body is ultimately just a huge tree. Although it is a bit difficult to swallow, in the face of countless, boundless mutated Dao-1 insects, there is no tree that cannot be gnawed. The Dao-1 insects underground all went crazy, disregarding their own lives to gnaw on the roots of the ancient tree scattered in the earth veins. The ancient tree of the earth vein has already merged with the earth veins. When the roots of the ancient tree in a certain area are all destroyed, the direct consequence is land subsidence. Terrifying, mountain-flattening land subsidence. Without warning, large-scale land subsidence disasters began to appear in some areas of the Xuanwang realm. Even though the cultivators basically live in the floating sky cities and are not threatened much. This matter immediately aroused the high attention of the myriad Immortals Alliance. Acting much faster than before, the day after the land subsidence incident, an investigation team went to various places to find out what happened. Li Fan sent a message to the 3 law transmitters, asking them to secretly cooperate. While marveling at the association's endless methods, the 3 law transmitters also cooperated very well, each displaying their own abilities to quietly capture all the Immortal Alliance investigation teams. The first batch of personnel all disappeared inexplicably, and the myriad Immortals Alliance suddenly realized that something was wrong. So the second time, the team leader who came to supervise the investigation turned out to be 2 law transmitters. Li Fan, who received the message, wore the Heavenly Yang immortal armor and came to the scene of the law transmitter confrontation as the trump card. No aura of the Xuantian sect's cultivation method was detected. It seems they were not possessed by that Dharma King. Law transmitter Zhou transmitted secretly. What should we do? Reason with them and move them with emotion. If it really doesn't work, we can only temporarily suppress them. After everything returns to normal, we will release them. Law transmitter Wei quickly made a decision. While the 4 were discussing, the 2 law transmitters opposite them looked at Zhou, Wei, and others who suddenly appeared, revealing shock and rage. I didn't expect that it was you who were secretly playing tricks. You yourselves proposed to leave the law transmitter council back then. Even if you have dissatisfaction now, you shouldn't commit such sins. The law transmitter named Chu said with a face full of disappointment. 1079, the plan is finally completed and he appears. Facing the accusations from their former companions, the 3 law transmitters, Zhou, Wei, and Huang, remained unfazed. Knowing their opponents' personalities well, they chose not to attempt persuasion through words. Instead, they directly took action, aiming to subdue the 2 law transmitters first. Enough nonsense, let's see what you're truly capable of. Huang was the first to attack. With a furious roar, golden light simultaneously shot out from the ferocious eyes of his 2 heads. The light beams locked onto Chu and Shen from afar. At the same time, the law transmitters Zhou and Wei also unleashed their respective techniques. Above law transmitter Zhou's head, the reflection of her personal small world instantly appeared. Everyone seemed to be drawn into that hazy, dreamlike world, confronting each other atop skyscrapers illuminated by different colored lights. Zhou's attire also transformed into a black metal armor that had never been seen before. It looked somewhat similar to the celestial puppet armor of Tianyang's incarnation. 24 flying swords, radiating chilling light, unfolded behind Zhou like a halo. With a thought, Zhou sent the flying swords streaking through the sky, rapidly shooting towards Chu and Shen. The speed and sharpness of the flying swords seemed to tear through space, leaving trails of black fissures. They resembled black dragons, roaring and raging. After launching the flying swords, the 24 swords behind Zhou didn't disappear. They merely turned into illusory images. After all 24 swords completed a cycle of simultaneous firing, the first flying sword had completed its transformation from illusion to reality. Thus, another round of simultaneous firing commenced. Endless, without limit, Besides the destructive power of the flying swords themselves, Li Fan, who had set up a formation to seal off the battlefield and was observing from the sidelines, faintly detected traces of time flow alteration from this continuous barrage. Li Fan had experienced this feeling outside Yuan Daozhou in the Immortal ruins. He wouldn't mistake it. Although the change in the flow of time was minuscule, it was definitely present. This indicated that Law Transmitter Zhou had also comprehended some aspects of the law of time. Compared to Zhou, Law Transmitter Wei's attacks had a touch of profound simplicity. With every gesture, he continuously waved horizontal and vertical black lights. The intersecting lines formed a cage. The cage seemed to carry the weight of the world. The enemy's actions and reaction speeds were all slowed down to varying degrees. As more and more cages layered upon each other, the slowing effect became increasingly pronounced. Law Transmitter Huang wasn't to be outdone. His withered body approached Chu and Shen, choosing the most direct close-quarters combat. Each punch and kick seemed to carry infinite power, forcing the two Law Transmitters to parry desperately. It must be said that, as Law Transmitters, Chu and Shen's strength was indeed not weak. Chu was covered in constant, infinite white light, capable of dissolving all attacks. Shen was skilled in wielding a horsetail whisk, with thousands of white strands that could transform into different weapons to combat enemies. These two were no weaker than any Dao integration cultivator. However, the strength of Law Transmitters was roughly equal. Zhou and the others, with their 3-on-2 advantage, already held the upper hand in numbers. In addition, Li Fan was secretly using formations to hinder them. Therefore, the outcome of this battle was without suspense. It took a full 7 days to suppress these two Law Transmitters. Though defeated, they were still unconvinced. Kill us if you have the guts. Law Transmitter Zhou rolled her eyes at Chu. Did you think that after leaving the Law Transmitter Council, I would really forget everything about Law Transmitters? With the Heavenly Lord's life-saving restriction in place, even if we could kill you, we would be marked. Wei then slowly explained, you two brothers have misunderstood. We have our own compelling reasons for doing this. Then, he recounted in detail the reasons why Mo Ruben, the Dharma king of the Zantian sect, had secretly seized the body of a Law Transmitter. I have personally verified it, he emphasized. Chu snorted, his face full of disbelief. Absurd. What is the strength of his Law Transmitters? Moreover, we are protected by the Heavenly Lord's restrictions, how could we be seized without a sound? Shen, on the other hand, was somewhat doubtful. Recalling the anomalies before the Immortal Alliance's Law Transmitter Council, he seemed to be lost in thought. Law Transmitter Zhou sneered. It doesn't matter if you don't believe it. Anyway, you trash can't be relied on. You just wait and see. After Zhang comes, we will explain everything to him, and then we will launch the Law Transmitter's oath. At that time, everything will be revealed. Hearing the name Law Transmitter's oath, Shen and Chu were instantly silent. They understood the weight of this term. Someone who dares to actively propose a Law Transmitter's oath trial would never be someone with ulterior motives. Could it be? The two exchanged glances, falling into silence. Li Fan, on the other hand, silently watched the dispute between the Law Transmitters, not speaking. The mysterious disappearance of two Law Transmitters who came to investigate the sinkhole incident was definitely a major event that shook the Immortal Alliance up and down. The Law Transmitter Council urgently convened to discuss countermeasures. Although a few, including Law Transmitter Feng, opposed it, the vast majority of the council felt that this matter should be immediately reported to Law Transmitter Zhang. The minority submits to the majority. Finally, Law Transmitter Zhang in the Return to Origin realm was also alarmed. Looking at the many investigations about the sinkhole incident that appeared before him, Zhang nodded. I had already faintly noticed this matter before. Many strange little insects suddenly appeared underground in the Xuanwang realm. They can produce a special spiritual energy that stimulates the desire for slaughter in cultivators' hearts. The previous slaughter tribulation in the Xuanwang realm was caused by them. Not only changing the temperament of Xuanwang realm cultivators, but now also destroying the foundation of the Xuanwang realm. Law Transmitter Zhang looked at the Law Transmitters in front of him, who didn't dare to come in person because they feared his all things are like me characteristic, and only sent messages with illusory images. A trace of disappointment flashed in his eyes. He shot out a white light. I have already found a way to kill these little insects. You just need to do as I say. As for the disappearance of Chu and Shen, I'll take a trip myself. Law Transmitter Yang's figure instantly disappeared in the Return to Origin realm, his voice echoing for a long time. After assisting in capturing the 2 law transmitters, Li Fan temporarily separated from the 3 law transmitter Zhou on some pretext. The main body returned to the spirit wood realm to lie dormant, leaving only the immortal puppet Li Fan outside. The warning signs that appeared in his heart from time to time told him that law transmitter Yang's arrival was not far away. Sure enough, only one day later, Zhang followed the clues and came to the door. "It's actually you." Seeing that the culprits who caused the turmoil in the Xuanwang realm were actually former companions. Even with Yang's psychological endurance, a trace of astonishment appeared on his face. "It was just a plan to force you to show up, a last resort." Facing Zhang, even the usually arrogant Huang was much more amiable. Law transmitter Zhou had no shame, and spoke his mind directly. 1080. No regrets. The characteristic force field of open black lens bracket all things are like me close black lens bracket has already covered the surroundings, and Zhang can perceive that Zhou and the others are not lying. So now it was his turn to find it a little difficult to accept. Of course, he knew about the turmoil in the Immortal Alliance headquarters 5 years ago. However, this matter was quickly quelled, and the result of the incident was only that a batch of law transmitters in charge of government affairs were replaced. There were no casualties. His main responsibility was to maintain the safety and stability of the Xuanwang realm, so he did not come forward to intervene. In his opinion, as long as the Immortal Alliance's operations are not affected, it doesn't really matter who is in charge. After all, those guys in the Law Transmitter Council are all pretty much the same. However, if remnants of the Xuantian cult have infiltrated the Law Transmitter Council, and they are secretly plotting something that endangers the Xuanwang realm, the nature of the matter would be completely different. The Celestial Venerable entrusted him with the important task of monitoring the myriad Immortal Alliance, but now there is such a big flaw, it is definitely his dereliction of duty. I will definitely thoroughly investigate this matter. He looked at Zhou, Huang, and Wei, and solemnly guaranteed. Time is of the essence, please come back to the Immortal Alliance headquarters with me. Saying that, Zhang looked at the immortal puppet Li Fan beside him. This fellow Taoist should also come along. If it weren't for your reminder this time, I'm afraid I would still be kept in the dark. Being just a puppet body, Li Fan naturally had nothing to fear, and immediately agreed. Law Transmitter Zhang waved his hand lightly, creating a space channel leading to the Immortal Alliance headquarters out of thin air, and took the lead in walking into it. Feeling the long-lost and familiar aura at the end of the tunnel, the Law Transmitters Zhou and the others all had complicated expressions. After taking a deep breath, they entered one after another. As soon as the immortal puppet Li Fan arrived at the Immortal Alliance headquarters, he heard 3 distant bell sounds coming from the horizon. The Law Transmitter Great Bell. 3 bell rings spread throughout Xuanwang. No matter where they are, whether they are willing or not, as long as they hear this bell ring, the Law Transmitters must return to the Immortal Alliance headquarters within a day. It's been a long time since I heard it. Law Transmitter Wei said with some emotion. Zhou and Huang also had similar sighs in their eyes. The Immortal Alliance headquarters entered a state of emergency, with entry allowed but no exit. In the deepest space of the Immortal Alliance headquarters, a circular council chamber appeared out of thin air. One by one, the law transmitters came to the venue, with solemn expressions. Although they didn't know the reason why Zhang had summoned everyone, since the great bell had rung, there must be something major about to happen. As the number of participants continued to increase, small discussions slowly began to sound in the venue. Even Hua is here. Since she became immersed in the paradise small world she created, I haven't seen her for probably more than 1,000 years, right? Don't even mention Hua. Even Zhou and those few who were exiled have returned. When was the last time we were so lively? When all the surviving law transmitters in the Xuanwang realm had arrived, the conference officially began. Including law transmitter Zhang, there were a total of 28 people. In addition, with the immortal puppet Li Fan, there were a total of 29 people participating in the conference. Li Fan secretly looked at law transmitter Feng, who was also Mo Ruben. What was strange was that he was not afraid at all. He didn't even show any panic or surprise after seeing Li Fan appear. He even nodded slightly in greeting. Interesting. Li Fan sneered in his heart, and also nodded in response. Law transmitter Zhang succinctly explained to everyone that a Xuantian cult Dharma king might have infiltrated. This immediately caused an uproar among the law transmitters. Xuantian cult. They were destroyed a long time ago when we started our uprising, right? After so many years, they are still lingering. This, being able to seize a body without triggering the celestial Venerable's restrictions. Isn't that a bit alarmist? Interesting, really interesting. It's an ideal toy. Gia Gia Gia. Everyone reacted differently. Law Transmitter Joe, under the gaze of everyone, took out the puppet doll that Li Fan had given him, which was constantly running the Schwantian cult's cultivation method. Buzz buzz buzz. As soon as the doll appeared, it immediately reacted. As if it were alive, its eyes suddenly opened. It stared straight at 4 people in the arena, including Law Transmitter Feng. Previously, only 3 Law Transmitters sensed it. Has another one been seized in such a short period of time? Joe was both shocked and angry in his heart. Everyone, this is the evidence. Joe then said loudly, simply explaining the operating principle of the puppet doll. Countless gazes locked onto Feng and the other 3. Law Transmitter Yang's expression was also gloomy. You. Before he could finish his questioning, Feng interrupted him. I object to Joe's statement. Cultivation methods cannot prove anything. The Schwantian cult's cultivation method is inherited from the Immortal realm. I was fortunate enough to obtain a few volumes of it, and I was overjoyed. So I started practicing it. What's wrong with that? After some practice, I discovered that it was indeed extraordinary. So I gave the remaining cultivation methods to my brothers to share. Is there anything wrong with that? Feng spoke sonorously. He looked around, his eyes like torches, without the slightest embarrassment of being exposed for his conspiracy. Brothers, ask yourselves, if there are immortal cultivation methods placed in front of you, would you be able to resist the urge not to practice them? I think probably not many people can do that, right? As soon as these words came out, the venue suddenly fell into an eerie silence. After thinking for a moment, the Law Transmitters suddenly felt that what Law Transmitter Feng said was not without reason. Yes, what's wrong with the cultivation method? Can a conviction be made solely on the basis of the cultivation method practiced? Then, among the Law Transmitters present, probably not many are completely innocent. Even Law Transmitter Zhang fell into contemplation for a moment. As for the accusations of being seized by a Schwantian cult demon and intending to harm the Immortal Alliance. After a brief silence, Law Transmitter Feng once again spoke passionately. I am willing to voluntarily accept the review of the open black lens bracket Law Transmitter's oath close black lens bracket to show that I have not forgotten my original intention. He said resolutely. I am also willing. My heart will never change. The other 3 Law Transmitters who were detected to have the Schwantian cult aura also spoke out generously. Li Fan exchanged glances with Law Transmitter Zhou and the others, and a bad premonition suddenly arose in his heart. But now that the arrow is on the string, it must be fired. Under Yang's leadership, the review of the Law Transmitter's oath officially began. In the circular venue, all the Law Transmitters closed their eyes slightly and chanted words. Above the void, countless figures of sacrificed and fallen Law Transmitter pioneers seemed to appear. Dense and numerous, they almost occupied the entire venue space. Law Transmitter Feng stood in the center of the circular venue, facing the gaze of countless eyes, unmoving. I, Law Transmitter Feng. The original intention of trying to save Xuanwang from fire and water has never changed. It is so now, and it will be so in the future. He first made a summary, and then spoke eloquently, also expressing his thoughts directly.